doing good in your personal life and doing no harm out in the world, and that could feel like enough. But in these times, silently disagreeing is not enough. When elected officials and internet trolls like Congressman Tim Burchett call Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, a DEI hire, or Fox Business contributor and father of four, Alec Lace, calls the VP, and I quote, the original Hatua girl, or when JD Vance says things like, oh, she's a childless cat lady, or when Trump says she's as dumb as a rock, your silence signals agreement. VP Harris deserves people engaging with her record and policy proposals, not a discourse rooted in racism and sexism. So, so don't allow this fringe cult to speak for you and poison the well. This is your time to stand up for not just the VP, not just for Kamala Harris, but for democracy, for community, and for family. And I'm not saying you have to agree with 100% of her policy positions, but you can still engage. Be curious and ask questions in the spirit of solidarity as you are in motion with all of us who are seeking a better democracy. And not just solidarity for her, but solidarity for all the people who stand to lose if MAGA wins. The pro democracy forces uniting against fascism and uniting across all differences, a coalition that includes Black men and women and LGBTQ folks and labor unions and people like me who want an arms embargo to stop the war in Gaza, and people like me who care deeply about public safety and police accountability, and people like others who want to protect reproductive rights, and everybody of good conscience in between. There's so many people, so many issues, so many identities coming together like never before. And now is your time. Joining this coalition is important for two reasons. One, on the other side is right wing authoritarianism. It's Project 2025, a road for things like weaponizing the federal government against those who oppose this extremist agenda, stripping away workers' rights, reproductive rights, and voting rights. The second reason, white men are a massive part of the electorate. In a close election, a few percentage points can be the difference between having a democracy or not. Joe Biden won 32% of white men. What if we get that number to 35, to 40, or even more? When you remain silent, they win. One day, we all will be asked what we did to stop this MAGA movement. What will your answer be? I know what mine will be. And I'm inviting you to join me and those like me in stopping this movement. So this is your time. This is your calling. Volunteer for the Harris campaign. Donate now. Let's get above of whatever the goal is. Don't wait for the end of this call. Don't even wait for the end of my remarks. Donate now. Join the thousands of men on this call, the millions of people in this country who are already in formation, and the billions around the world who are fighting their own version of MAGA. Do it now. This is our time. Get involved, donate, volunteer. Over the next 100 days, let's get to victory. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Shit, I'm feeling inspired. Are you feeling inspired? If you are, I encourage you to do what Mo said, which is slam the donate or volunteer button. We've already raised about $1 million since we've been on this call, which is absolutely crazy. Let's see if we can get to 1.5 million. Let's do it as soon as we can. Up next, we have another speaker. And when we found out that this next dude was joining, our organizing team collectively all kind of lost their minds. He's won or been nominated for Academy, Golden Globe, Screen Actors Guild, BAFTA, Emmy Awards. But even if he never won anything, you'd still be excited as hell because you know him, you love him. The dude in chief, Jeff Bridges.
Unmute my, are you, am I there? I can't I can't hear myself, but that's okay.
We can hear you.
Oh yeah, okay, great. Okay, good. So great to be here, Ross. I gotta laugh because I accepted the invitation. You know, I was brought to the party not so much as being white, and I certainly am, but because I'm a dude, you know. So a friend sent me this email today with your hat on there. And I said, oh, I got to have one of those. I qualify, man. I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris. So wonderful to be here. And I dug what you said, Maurice. That's really, terrific. The fact that you're here, you're a black man here with us white guys. I had no idea that this whole thing that we're up to was based on what black women for Harris, right? And so it kind of morphed into white men, white dudes for Harris, and I'm excited, man. I think the fact that Joe has passed the baton so beautifully, um, and Kamala is just so certainly our girl. I can see her being president. I'm so excited. A woman president, man. How exciting. And her championing of women's rights. I'm for that. And for all her stance on the environment and taking care of our children. All of her leadership on that is wonderful and something that I can get behind and support. And so thank you, Ross, and you guys who are responsible for kicking on this channel to give me a chance to express my support. I'm really excited to be a part of this. And the word fight, I watched Kamala's speech there, just before getting on the call. She ended, fight, fight. God, I can't, that's the thing. I can't relate to that. I just went through a health crisis. And I remember the doctor coming up to me and say, you got to fight, you got to fight. I said, what are you talking about, man? I'm in surrender mode here. I'm going with the flow, what life has in store. And I feel that with this, with what we're all up to right now, that it's not so much a fight, but it's a surrender to our higher thoughts of how we want this future to turn out. And so I'm kind of surrendering to it as opposed to fighting to it. But that's just my approach. As the dude might say, that's just my opinion, man, But great to be with you guys.
Jeff, thank you so much for being on. I got this. This is a very cool moment. So thank you for being on. Our next guest really doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. He's the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana. You can thank him for making it so the airlines have to refund your money after they mess up. He's also the internet's favorite candidate for VP, one of the brightest stars in the Democratic Party. We've got Pete Buttigieg with us.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm really excited to be with you all and to address this convening of dudes right after the dude is definitely one of the honors of of my life. I'll be brief, but look, I'm a policy guy. I've never been totally comfortable with the truth that no matter how much you believe in your policies, so much of politics is just vibes. Having said that, the vibes right now are incredible. My husband Chaston and I were home over the weekend and stopped by a canvas kickoff in Michigan at the Traverse City field office close to our house. I haven't seen that kind of energy for Democrats in Michigan since I was campaigning in the midterms for leaders like Gretchen Whitmer, and we all know how that turned out. The momentum is extraordinary, and we got so many great speakers tonight, and not a lot of time. So I really just want to stress one thing to all of you, and that is, as we work to keep up our energy and spread it to everybody we know, especially over the roller coaster of the next 100 days, there's a real chance right now, I think, to be driven not just by what we're up against, but by what we believe in and what we're for. Not just what we're trying to stop, which we all know how important that is, but by what we're working to sustain. look, Donald Trump's unfitness for office is clear, and no one is better positioned to prosecute that case than Kamala Harris. And you can see that his campaign is flailing. He's reverting to his worst instincts. His choice of running mate in J.D. Vance is evidence that he's doubling down on the very worst of it, from the anti-woman rhetoric to this deep entanglement with Project 2025. But for all of that, what's really filling my sails right now, and what I think Kamala Harris is expressing so well right now, is the positive side of all this, a reminder of what we are for, namely freedom. I'm so glad she has made freedom the theme of her campaign, because I think in so many ways that's what's at stake. And yes, women's freedom is Exhibit A after Donald Trump demolished the right to choose. But of course, men are also more free in a country where we have a president who stands up for things like access to abortion care. Men are more free when the leader of the free world and the leader of this country supports access to birth control and to IVF. And certainly men like me and my husband are more free when we have a president who supports our freedom to get married to who we love. And it goes through issue after issue. Defending and building on the Affordable Care Act makes us more free, because more people are free from worrying that the next health crisis could destroy their entire livelihood. Doubling down on the climate wins and the Inflation Reduction Act, the most significant climate policy by any government in human history, means that our children will be more likely to be free from the worst effects of climate change. Common sense gun safety rules mean that they have a better chance of being free from fear of coming to harm at school, which is a hell of a lot more pro-freedom approach to supporting children than one that is based on banning books. We think about economics. The freedom to join a union is a big deal. The economic freedoms that come from having good infrastructure and getting good paying jobs building it, that matters a lot. And even more deeply, I think the work that we're collectively doing right now on having a better democracy should be powerfully motivating to freedom-loving Americans and to every part of our coalition, including the dudes on this call, including the proposed reforms to the Supreme Court that the president and vice president unveiled today. These are things that remind me that we're not just trying to stop our democracy from being undermined, although we're definitely working to do that. We are working to make our union more perfect, but we're making it better. So to my way of thinking, it's less so that we are saving our democracy and more that we are building one. And that's what we're part of. And that's definitely something as a father that I'm excited about being able to tell my kids when they're old enough to ask Chasten and me what we did in this incredibly important, really decisive decade in American history, that we came together to make sure that there was a good outcome. And supporting Kamala Harris is a huge, huge part of that. So thank you to everybody for being part of this. And I'm really excited for what we are going to deliver. Yes, the bad things we're going to stop, but more than that, the good things that we are going to propel in November and beyond. Thanks so much for the chance to join you guys.
Thank you so much. And I think that last point is really like the most salient one, is we're not just against shit, we're for stuff too. As I'm saying that, I'm also seeing a note from Reid Hoffman, who is the founder of LinkedIn. He has just let us know that he's willing to match the next $50,000 that we get raised. This is extremely cool because he's actually already maxed out his contributions to the campaign, but he was so excited for this that he's going to contribute $50,000 to an organization that is exclusively working to elect the vice president. So keep going. He's going to match our contributions. And with that, we're going to introduce our next speaker, who I'm personally a huge fan of and have been for a while. I'd like to introduce two-time Emmy Award nominee, five-time Grammy Award nominee, one of the most incredible voices in the world, someone whose voice and face you'll probably recognize, Josh Groban.
Okay, there I am. Hi, everybody. I am so honored to be here. Speaking is not the thing I normally do, but to be a part of this incredible conversation is one that I'm really grateful to be part of. Thank you to my friend Rory O'Malley for inviting me, and congratulations on an amazing thing. As a musician, I have the great privilege, beyond the other privileges that I've had in my life, to be able to have all different kinds of people come into an audience, to be able to travel the country, to travel the world, to meet people, to hear um, their concerns, to be able to unite people through the power of music. And it's sometimes a little bit of a scary thing to step out politically sometimes, because people, they'll flood your DMs with hate, and you're going to lose half your audience and all that stuff. But the thing that I am always drawn to, and the thing that I've grown up, and the person that Jack and Lindy Groban, who I think are watching, raised, um, has to step out when unity, that very unity that I cherish in being able to perform, is at risk in the country that I also live in. And when I look to my left and to my right, my friends, and there is a real age-old drum that is being played on the other side right now that is oversimplifying something that is really, really simple, and it's based on fear. And it is this idea that to celebrate the beauty of our similarities and the beauty of our differences is somehow a scary thing. That somehow equality and prosperity are not mutually exclusive, and that when we talk about the fact, especially as a white guy, where it is so much easier sometimes to lean into the idea that, well, I'm going to be quiet about who, I'm just a support. I'm going to, I don't have to go out of my way. When the world has been built for you, to say that Black Lives Matter, on the right, the idea that it doesn't mean that other lives don't matter. It simply means that it has been too easy to ignore the struggles of that community, to support the love and the rights of the LGBTQIA plus community does not mean that straight relationships do not matter. It simply means it has been too easy to ignore the struggles and the bigotry against those communities. And so it's easy to assume somebody else will step up. It's always easy, especially in the entertainment industry, to say, I'm going to step back. I am proud to raise my hand and to say that this is something that I believe so fully in. I'm so excited by the galvanizing of the Harris campaign. And I'm so grateful every single day to the people in my life and in the marginalized communities that educate me every single day, that this is a constant education for all of us. And so thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. And thank you for this amazing coalition. And if you're watching, do the right thing and donate. And thank you so much for having me.
You heard Josh. Don't keep donating. Since we first kicked off the match, I think we're getting pretty close to hitting the $50,000 from Reid Hoffman. So please keep going. And also, dudes, take a second, send this link to your friends, ask them to join whitedudesforharris.com. And with that, we're just going to go right to our next speaker. Governor Roy Cooper was first elected North Carolina's governor in a tough election in 2016 and is serving his second term in office. I've also heard rumors he might be in contention to be VP. Governor Cooper has also fought for working people since his first day in office, issuing executive orders that prohibit workplace discrimination and establish paid parental leave for over 56,000 state employees. Governor Cooper helped combat the opioid crisis in his state by working across party lines. He launched the first opioid action plan in 2017, and as a result, prescriptions have dropped by 24%. Emergency rooms for opioid misuse have declined by 10%, and opioid-related deaths have decreased by 5%. And with that, I'd like to introduce Governor Roy Cooper.
Introduction's too long. Hey guys, welcome from North Carolina. Hey, come for basketball, come for hockey, come for NASCAR, come for golf, we are ready for it. We have the best state in the country, and you're welcome to visit anytime. I'm going to get right to it, guys. Real men respect women, their decisions, their careers, and it's pretty clear that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance don't. From Trump's sexual assaults to Vance's misogynistic comments, it's pretty clear that disrespect of women permeates Donald Trump land and MAGA Republicans. And in fact, it's like that all over the country. In North Carolina, we have a Republican nominee named Mark Robinson, who's running for governor. I'm term limited. Our Democratic nominee is Josh Stein, who's the Attorney General, whom I've endorsed. Donald Trump endorsed Mark Robinson. And in fact, he said publicly that he thought Mark Robinson, who is a Black Republican, is better than Martin Luther King Jr., and that he was Martin Luther King ×2. Here are some of the horrible things that Mark Robinson has said, which I think he's saying the not so quiet part out loud for MAGA Republicans. He has said that men should lead, not women. That when God needed someone to fight Goliath, he called David and not Davida. He has said that once women get pregnant, that it's not their body anymore. He has said that women who aren't responsible enough to keep their skirts down are having abortions. That's the kind of disrespect of women that we see with many MAGA Republicans, and particularly in their leaders. You've seen it with congressional leaders who have called Vice President Harris a DEI candidate. You're talking about a woman who was a great prosecutor, who got elected by the people of California to serve as the chief law enforcement officer and attorney general of the state, who got elected by the entire state of California to represent them in the United States Senate, and who has been vice president of the United States for the last 3.5 years. A DEI candidate? Here's what they're saying: that women and people of color don't deserve to lead. We know better than that, guys. We know that this country needs Kamala Harris more than ever right now. And we can hold the key. Now, I'm not the political scientist or the pollsters, but I know enough to know, and I've seen enough polling results or outcomes in elections to know that if white males would vote 1% to 2% more for Democrats than they usually do, then we win this race. We win Kamala Harris's race. We win Democratic races in North Carolina. So this is a call to action. Kamala Harris is a strong woman, but she's going to run this country in a way that she cares about the pocketbook issues. She's going to work for tax credits for children and for the middle class and not for billionaires. She's going to work to clean our environment. She's going to work to make sure that people have health care and quality education. That's the kind of person that we need. So here's what I tell you guys. Be unafraid. Be unafraid to go and talk with your friends about the importance of this race, the importance of electing Kamala Harris as president, and the importance to our country. I know we all love our country, and now we can show it by getting to work. Thanks a lot. Keep giving, keep working. See you soon.
Thank you, Governor Cooper. And, we all need to do what he just said, which is go out and talk to our friends, talk to our neighbors, talk to our family members. A really quick update. We're now at over $2.5 million raised so far on this call. And we just got a note saying we have another match in. Director and producer J.J. Abrams just told us that he's willing to give a $50,000 match. So let's go. Understands what it means to be in the West Wing because he was actually in the West Wing. And whether or not they admit it, he's also a person who's inspired hundreds of folks to go into politics. I know that because personally, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm one of them. Of course, I'm talking about Bradley Whitford from Handmaid's Trail and Transparent to Billy Madison. This guy only knows how to play iconic roles. But of course, to us, his most iconic role is his Emmy Award winning role as Deputy Chief of Staff Joss Lyman in The West Wing. He's also distinguished himself as an incredible activist, sitting on the board of Let America Vote. He's also worked tirelessly on behalf of so many issues, especially favorite actors, Bradley Whitford.
Thank you, Ross. What a variety of whiteness we have here. We got the dude, we got Pete. It's like a rainbow of beige. Yeah, I'm trying to. I guess I thank you for what you said about West Wing. I think yeah, we're really trying to stay out of the Handmaid's Tale. Look, I have been active. I'm from Wisconsin. I've been active in campaigns there my entire adult life. I've never felt this kind of belief. I've never felt this kind of enthusiasm ever. And I want us to enjoy it. But because I'm from Wisconsin, I'm really paranoid. We only have 100 days. Okay. We have to do more than a Zoom. We have to do more than donate beyond whatever we can donate. We need to get to work. And in all this euphoria, I want to remind us, maybe we're tied in the polls. Biden won the popular vote by 5% last time, but he only won by 40,000 votes in the swing states because of the ridiculous electoral college situation. 40,000 votes. I remember we thought in Wisconsin that there would be a margin of at least 100,000. I think it was 20,000. This is so far from a sure thing. And we have to seize this moment. And I just want to say that we need to channel our enthusiasm to galvanize. I know this is what the White Dudes organization is doing. Other organizations, the Wisconsin Dems are incredible. They're battle tested at this, but we need to focus on the swing states. So I ask you all, in addition to whatever you're doing here, focus on the swing states. Speaking of White Dudes, the Pod Save America guys have a great, very easy way called Vote Save America for you to get involved. I keep saying over the last 8 years, if there is a God, she's a terrible writer. I mean, I have not been able to. If I walked into the West Wing writers' room and said, "Okay, this is going to be our Republican candidate," a felon, an adjudicated rapist. Let alone, with the tan and the hair, it would have been seen, as condescending. I guess the new talking point is they're weirdos. Yeah, they want to spy on us. When we talk to our doctors, they're banning our books. They're spewing this hatred, this division. And I think all of us are here to say, enough. I want to accentuate the fact that we need to keep a woman's right to make her own decisions about her body out front. I think, as Mayor Pete was saying, it is the most effective spear on the overall message that I love that the Kamala campaign is putting out there, that Democrats are the party of freedom. Republicans, for no reason, have had that for a long time. The Democrats are the party of freedom. We are the party of reproductive freedom, economic freedom, the freedom from fear that our children are going to be shot in schools, and the fundamental freedom to continue to live on a planet that is going to be inhabitable for generations to come. And if there's anything that the last 8 years has taught us, it's that we don't just get a democracy. You got to make it every damn day. I think Kamala is showing us all a future worth fighting for, and she has the experience to make it happen. Again, we have the perfect candidate at the perfect moment. So please give whatever you can. Let's give her the campaign that our future deserves. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Bradley. All right, up next, we have Mayor Mitch Landrieu. He served as the mayor of New Orleans from 2010 to 2018. He previously served as lieutenant governor of Louisiana from 2004 to 2010. He worked in the Biden administration, where he advised the president as a senior advisor for infrastructure, helping to craft and implement the Build Back Better and other initiatives. Mayor Landrieu is also the co-chair of the Harris for President campaign. All right, Mr. Mayor, take it away.
You guys, thank you so much, and it's great to be with all of you. Thank you for letting me share a bit with you. I won't repeat the policy matters that Mayor Pete talked about or Governor Roy, but let me just say a couple things. I'm from Louisiana. I'm from the Deep South. What we have been witnessing with Trump and Trumpism is really the manifestation of a couple of ideas that have been with us since the beginning of our country, which reared its head during the Civil War, and over the course of history has percolated, but it never made its way into the United States Capitol until the date of the insurrection, nor did it make its way into the White House, where it had the power of the presidency behind us. I think all of you know now, as you listen to the words that are being spoken by Donald Trump, those words are a manifestation of what I think is the root of the poisonous tree. It's a complete rejection of really what America was about, essentially. So when when Burchett says that Vice President is a DEI hire, or Tommy Tuberville, who actually, the senator from Alabama, who couldn't find Alabama on a map, says that she's not qualified. Essentially what they're saying is a burden that women have been carrying, African Americans have been carrying, anybody who doesn't fit the main narrative have been carrying, which is that really some of us are created more equal than others, and that some of us don't get to enjoy the rights and the responsibilities or the burdens of others. And yet there's been another strain in America that has fought against that. You hear the idea that the arc of the moral universe is bent towards justice, but somebody's got to bend it, and it's getting bent the wrong way. And at this particular moment in history, we really have a struggle in front of us. Bradley spoke to this issue. You have to earn democracy every day. It just doesn't show up. You really got to fight for it. And right now, I happen to think the wolf is at the door of the house of democracy. And then unless we beat it back, unless we really stand up and push it back, then it actually could fall. And once it falls, it is near impossible to get it back. So I do think that we need to stand in this moment. Kamala is carrying on her shoulders 248 years of pain, of agony, of hope, of frustration. And no matter how high she jumps, no matter how many degrees she has, no matter how good her grades are, she's never good enough because they're always moving the line. And I think in that idea, she holds the heart of so many people who have been left out. But what Pete said is also true, that we have on the tip of our hands the future, the promise of America, the fact that America hasn't really begun to scratch the surface of her greatness, but the excitement of her candidacy that you feel out there is this kind of pent-up hope that is it really possible that we can get it done? And the answer is yes. However, we got to show up. And I would just say this to the white men of America. This idea somehow that when other people get, we lose, that when some people benefit, we just get left behind. That is absolutely not true. I have 5 kids, 2 daughters. My brother and sisters and I, the 9 of us, have 38 kids, and there are 19 of them are young women. Some of them are married, some of them are not. Some of them have kids, some of them don't. Each and every one of them has an incredible future. And the better they do, the fact of the matter is, the better all of us do. This idea that out of many we are one really does work. It's a richer, deeper, more wonderful way to live, but you got to stand up for it. And the truth of the matter is, as Roy Cooper was saying, politically and numerically, if white guys would just show up, if we would stand up and be counted, if we would talk about what it really means to be a great partner and a man, which is to protect, down, all of us are going to be better for it. And I think that you will see the vice president speaking to this very forcefully as she speaks about an economy that's going to work for everybody, as she speaks about democracy, but as has been said, when she speaks about freedom, because freedom is for everybody. Freedom is for hope. Freedom is for aspiration. And as I have said, the thing that I am so excited about, and I have had the chance to work with her, I know her, I love her, she's tough, she's smart, she's capable, she's ready to go. But more importantly, the future that she sees for us, for all of us, is so compelling that it should get everybody up off of their feet, because nothing less is going to matter. And I'll end with Bradley, who is drawing down for us where it really matters, whether you call it fight or whether you call it submission, or the thing is, you have to go out and vote. This election is going to be won in 7 swing states. It's going to be won on the margins. It's going to be won when a coalition comes together who believes that when we do things together, we're better. And white men have to show up. If we show up to the tune of 1 or 2 or 3 more percentage points, that democracy that's in our reach will be ours for the taking. So I thank all of you for what you are about to do, but we really have to get at it. You have 100 days, and every one of those days is going to matter. So God bless you all, and thanks for getting in the fight.
Thank you, Mayor Landrieu. All right. And, it is, I've heard a lot of people say you've got the best accent in politics. I think that I agree with that. So we know that there are some folks who maybe had a hard time getting in at the very beginning of the show. So we're asking you to help us out a little bit. Drop into Twitter, Facebook, or email. Send your friends the link to join. It's whitedudesforharris.com. We also have heard that maybe some folks are having some issues donating through the YouTube button. You can donate at whitedudesforharris.com/donate. And up next, we have one of the most dynamic and effective labor leaders in America. Jimmy Williams Jr. is 4th generation from Glazer, which is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm honored to introduce the General President of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, Jimmy Williams Jr.
Thank you, Ross. And, I started thinking, I'm like, hey, how does this white dude get to be on a call with like the Secretary of Transportation, with, Jeff Bridges, the coolest dude in the world? And I went, you know what? Nothing screams white dude more than a construction union, right? And nothing screams white middle-class working America more than a construction union. And I'm proud to represent the labor movement here tonight. And I'm proud to represent what is the true only place for working people to advance in this economy, in an economy that works for real working people, as opposed to the alternative that's being presented with Project 2025 and the Trump lies around how to organize working people. The American labor movement knows how to organize working people, and that's what we do. And we're proud to be united to support Vice President Harris in what is absolutely the most important election of our lifetime. Look, President Biden was great for the American labor movement, probably the greatest president of my lifetime. And I'm 46 years old, and I'm lucky to say that I'm the youngest president of a labor union in the building trades. I'm proud to say that. But man, I am scared to death of what the future could look like if we go back to another Trump administration, one that truly left working construction white men behind. but yet had a way to organize people around hate and around division. And you know what we are hearing from Vice President Harris is a true plan to move forward. And she stood by President Biden as he passed some of the most landmark legislation to help working white dudes in this country. The American Rescue Plan, which bailed out hundreds of thousands of workers' pension plans, white dudes' pension plans. The bipartisan infrastructure bill that's creating hundreds of thousands of construction jobs for white dudes, passed by this administration. And that's just a scratch of the surface that we can do as a country. That's what's on the ballot. And we cannot sit by quietly like we did in 2016 as white working men in this economy. We have to do more than just donate money. We have to do more than just show up on a Zoom call. We have to talk to our neighbors. We have to talk to our brothers and sisters. We have to speak truth to power. And we have to build this moment because we can do it. When we stay organized and when we keep our eye on the ball, we can make a difference in working people's lives. That's why the American labor movement is united behind Vice President Harris. That's why we have 100 days to continue to knock on doors, to talk to our brothers and sisters. Look, the American labor movement is the most popular it's ever been. 77% of workers under the age of 30 want to join a labor union. That's the first time in my lifetime that labor unions have been this popular. And I can guarantee you this much. The only candidate on the ballot that supports the American labor movement is Vice President Harris. And we cannot allow for division around race and misogyny and xenophobia to be the thing that sets us backwards. We have to be united. As a proud Pennsylvanian, I get to cast my vote in a swing state, and I cannot wait to cast my vote for the first female president of the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. That was awesome. Thank you. I've had a chance to check with our folks, and we just wanted to let you know that so far we've had over 65,000 people participate in this call, and we've raised over $2.8 million, which means that we're halfway to the $500,000 that I was hoping we'd be able to raise in 30 minutes. So let's keep the momentum going. Now's a great time to keep supporting the campaign. On your screen, there's options to give $10, $25, $50, even $100. If you want to max out and you can, that's great too. Every dollar you donate goes directly to the Harris campaign. Our next guest knows a little something about fundraising. Governor J.B. Pritzker, the 43rd governor of Illinois, has also selflessly given to many causes and is the chair of the DNC convention, which is going to be in Chicago super shortly. So it's my honor now to introduce Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois.
Thanks so much, Josh. And I got to be honest that when I'm invited to an event with a name like White Dudes for Harris, it doesn't usually sound like something I would join, but this is a terrific cause. And I'll keep my remarks short. I know that we have a lot of speakers. And afterward, of course, there's another Zoom that I invite you all to called Couches Against Trump, better known as CATS. I'm excited to join this call with incredible colleagues like Governor Roy Cooper and Governor Tim Walz, and of course, my friend, Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and with Mark Hamill and Jeff Bridges and Mark Ruffalo. Everyone on this call is doing an incredible amount of work in their states for the Democratic Party, for the campaign, and I thank you all for doing that. All of us are here tonight because we know how hard we're going to need to work for the next 99 days to make sure that Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States. And if we're going to win in November, we need to remember that this is bigger than just, well, one group. Frankly, it's a fight for fundamental democratic values, American values that form the very fabric of this country. Values like standing up for workers' rights and climate action, raising the minimum wage to a living wage, universal health care, personal freedoms, and so much more. Now, I've had the pleasure of working with Vice President Harris since she took office, since I took office. Her strength, her skills, her character is clear from the moment that you meet her and get to know her. And her unwavering commitment to the working families of the United States and the most vulnerable of our country proves that she'll be a leader to move us forward. Let's be clear about who Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are. Donald Trump is a 34-time convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist, and a congenital liar. He's a fraud. And J.D. Vance is his mini-me. I even created my own cognitive test that describes the two of them: sofa, dolphin, shark, cats, convict. Now, these are two men who are fundamentally unfit for the Oval Office, and the harm that they would do to this country would be irreversible. Trump brags about his role in overturning Roe v. Wade and ending abortion rights. And not to be outdone, J.D. Vance opposes exceptions for rape and incest victims. And he seems completely unwilling to couch his disdain for women. And they won't stop there. A second Trump term would go after IVF and contraception. It would monitor women and their pregnancies. That's what they've promised to do. Trump and Vance want to build an economy that would raise costs for middle-class families while giving tax breaks to the wealthiest and their mega corporations. They would gut overtime pay and workplace protections for workers. If you don't believe me, it's all spelled out in the Project 2025 right-wing manifesto. These next 99 days aren't going to be fun for Donald Trump because there's nothing that scares him more than facing off against a smart, accomplished woman who will call him out on his bullshit. And you better believe that Kamala Harris knows how to prosecute this case against Trump every single day. But to win, we also need people making the case right alongside her, like the tens of thousands of people on this call. This is going to be, well, a difficult campaign. It'll be a hard campaign. But I know that we're all ready to put in the work. So here's the ask that I make to you. Get involved and give. Visit whitedudesforharris.com to donate, volunteer, and then tell your friends and family to do the same. We have a real fight ahead. And so I ask you all, are you ready for that fight? Let's go win this thing. Thanks so much for having me on the call.
Hell yeah, we're ready for the fight. Thank you, Governor. Many folks on this and many folks on the speaking panel, I'm sure, are going to be attending and are looking forward to seeing you in Chicago in a few weeks for the DNC convention. And maybe as a Democratic nominee for VP, who knows? Our next guest is the voice of your child's favorite Disney, one of your child's favorite Disney characters. Shout out to Olaf. And also a very distinguished and award-winning actor in TV, film, and theater. Grammy and Tony nominee and winner, Josh Gad.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure how I drew the short straw and went after like all of the leading vice presidential candidates, but here I am. Also, quick observation. They have Kid Rock, Kevin Sorbo, and a dolphin aficionado, and we have the Hulk, Samwise Gamgee, Luke Skywalker, and Mayor Pete just on this Zoom. That's pretty damn cool. I'm a white dude. That much you can probably tell by now. But I also happen to be a father of two girls. I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. And I'm not sure if you guys can recall that feeling you had on the night of Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. I stood over my kid's bed and I wept. I wept because I felt like I let them down. I wept because they had the chance, and we had the chance, to have a female president for the first time in our lives and in the history of this nation. And instead, we put a man in office who not only disdains women, but whose own wife can't look him in the eye, whose own daughters seem to want nothing to associate him, to be associated with him. And that feeling of dread and that feeling of fear and that feeling of shame is not something I'm ever willing or able to allow myself to feel again. Which is why right now I am begging all of you to smash that donate button, because we owe it to the next generation of girls to not go through that hellscape times 2025 all over again. There's a fundamental difference this time, though, that there wasn't last time. There's a lot of fear, and I get that. I trust me, I fear it too. But there's also something in the air that I haven't felt in a really long time. Hope. And that feeling of hope, that feeling of being surrounded by people who aren't just voting out of distress and aren't just voting against something, but are voting for something, is really special. It's sometimes a generational feeling, right? We've had a lot of presidents in our lifetimes that we've elected them based on policy. We've elected them based on, this ideology that they have. But here we have somebody who doesn't look like the others, doesn't sound like the others, who isn't like the others. And that's a generational opportunity. And that feeling of hope is why I'm on this Zoom. That feeling that I have someone to so fully get behind, to be a cheerleader for, and to imagine standing there on Inauguration Day as I get to sit next to my daughters and listen to our first Madam President speak. That is the thing that I want you all to imagine tonight. That is the thing that has brought us all here. And that is the thing that, unlike last time, we are going to make sure happens. Even if it means we have to volunteer for the next 99 days, I will be there alongside of you guys, making calls, knocking on doors, banging on that glass ceiling until the damn thing shatters once and for all. Love you guys. Let's do this.
Fuck yeah, Josh. Thank you. That was awesome. Do what Josh said and smash that donate button. If you've already given, smash it again. If you've already given twice, you're more than welcome to smash it a third time. Our next guest has been all over the news, and folks everywhere have fallen in love with his story, record, and style, especially his awesome hats. We have Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who's presided over a historic progressive agenda in Minnesota, the highest ranking retired enlisted soldier ever to serve in Congress. He was also a coach and a teacher. Please join me in welcoming David Hogg's favorite politician, Governor Tim Walz.
Well, thanks, Ross. Thanks for having me on. The anti-Tommy Tuberville, I guess. So it's good to see you. Mitch Landrieu, good to see you. Any place you're at, I'm here. JB Pritzker and this whole group. Following Josh Gad, I am now complete, Josh. This was it. I'm going to echo that message, though, that message of hope. My oldest daughter's name is Hope. And that's because my wife and I spent 7 years trying to get pregnant, needed fertility treatments, things like IVF, things that they would ban. And so once again, I keep talking about this idea. You're right. These guys are the anti-freedoms. I grew up in a small town, 400 people, 24 kids in the class, 12 cousins. And I hear J.D. Vance trying to talk about what a small town is. There's one golden rule in a small town. Those of you who are from a small town, mind your own damn business. We don't need it. I don't know who's asking for this crazy stuff that they're pushing. Who's asking to ban birth control? Who's asking to raise the price of insulin? I'm a Legion Club member, and none of the dudes there are asking to cut veterans benefits like Project 2025 does. So look, that's not where folks are at. I represented a rural district. Donald Trump won it by 15 points in 2016 when I won. Those are folks that want a fair shot. We need to point out to this. The reason rural America hurts is because robber barons like these guys have come in there. These are the guys that take money out of our public schools for private schools to give vouchers to people already going to private school. They undermine the basic social safety net that makes this country great. So when I hear you on here, I heard Josh talking about hope. That is exactly right. That's what we need. And then coupled with that, because my wife reminds me of this, she said, hope is the most powerful word in the universe, but it's not a damn plan. We need a plan to win. And that's what you guys are doing. That's what smashing that button does. That's what's calling. And again, this is preaching to the choir, but the choir needs to sing. The choir needs to sing. This is our moment. This is not just transformational for one election. This is transformational for several generations. But here's the thing that I take a responsibility for. We're not in this alone. The rest of the world needs us to be here. These guys throwing our NATO allies under the bus, the idea that they don't care what happens in the rest of the world, not addressing climate change that's going to impact communities that are less fortunate than anyone else. Those are the things it has to do. We have communities that are going to pay the price because we don't address it. Here's the great news. How often in 100 days do you get to change the trajectory of the world? How often in 100 days do you get to do something that's going to impact generations to come? And how often in the world do you make that bastard wake up afterwards and know that a black woman kicked his ass and sent him on the road? And you know that's something that guy's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. So I got to tell all of you, please, please do what you can. Please talk. Look, I got Florida Man as a brother. We all got him in our families. But these are our neighbors and our relatives. And at heart, they're good people. They're not mean-spirited. They're not small. They're not petty like they hear on stage. They're angry. They're confused. They're frustrated. They feel like they got left behind sometimes. But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. Just do the damn work. So I got to tell you, when I see this, it lifts me up. I'm inspired. I see it. Again, anti-Tommy Tuberville, this is the first day of football. We're all in this. We're all undefeated. We got an opportunity on this. I want to be standing in that day in November when we're playing for the big one, and I'll take us. And again, keep hammering on these guys. This idea of calling them out for who they are, shrink them. Is he a danger to society? Yes. Is he a danger to women's health? Yes. Is he a danger to world peace? Yes. But don't give him more credit than he needs. He's just a strange, weird dude, as we've been saying. Pick that in the pace, pick up the work, do the work, donate, call, talk to your neighbors. Let's win this thing. No regrets at the end of this. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Governor. I see why everybody's so excited about you. With that, while the governor was speaking, I was checking in with folks, and they're telling me that we've had over 123,000 people who have tuned in so far, and we have managed to raise, and we've now hit $3 million for the campaign. So let's keep it going. Let's get that up to 3.5 million. Our next guest is truly one of the funniest folks I've seen. Paul Scheer is an actor and author that starred in Veep, The League, one of my favorite shows, and Knuckles. He's also an outspoken advocate for democratic causes and one of the hosts of How Did This Get Made, which has won awards for its celebration of real bad movies. Please welcome Paul Scheer.
Hey, everybody. I am so excited to be on this JD Vance fundraiser. I'm sorry, wait. Oh, sorry, that in an hour. So I'm doing that in an hour. No, I am so happy that we are all here tonight because we have taken the first step to being involved in this campaign. We showed up. We found the website, we clicked on it at the right time, and most importantly, we made time for something bigger than ourselves. And over these next few weeks, we need to continue to show up. And I think it's easier to do that when we're actually fired up. We all know what we're fighting against. But tonight, I want to focus on what and who we are fighting for. Because when we know what we're fighting for, we can speak to it. And that has the ability to move people. And that's what we have to do in this campaign. We need to make sure that everyone we know is voting, and we have to tell them who we are voting for. So let me tell you why I am fighting for Kamala. In short, I am voting for a fighter, someone who has been fighting for the little people since she was a little person. I mean, this is no joke. Did you know that when she was 13, the apartment building that she lived in wouldn't let kids play on the lawn? Now, most kids would just go inside and do something else, but not Kamala. She staged a protest and got the apartment complex to reverse its decision. All right? That's the drive, all right? That's the want to help people in need that have defined her entire career. You know, some people, they threaten to take on Wall Street, but she actually did it. During the great financial crisis, when the big banks were only offered $4 billion to foreclosed homeowners in California, she stood firm and she got that number up to $20 billion, from 4 to 20 billion. She stood up for mothers and veterans. She's passed bills to improve maternal health among racial and ethnic minority groups. She has fought for the middle class. She's introduced bills to give tax cuts to the middle and working class Americans, and was an early proponent of universal health care and forgiving student debt. Right? Kamala has led the fight for voting rights. She has been a staunch supporter of LGBTQ plus rights and has spoken out against discriminatory laws like Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. She's also been influential in securing a historic $65 billion investment to expand high-speed internet across the US, which created hundreds of jobs. She stood up to the gun lobby, passing the most comprehensive common sense gun prevention measures in decades, including stricter age limits, mental health services, and funding for community-based violence intervention programs. Kamala consistently stands up early and often as new issues arise, and she's always there to greet them, whether it's help regulating artificial intelligence or fighting for the environment. You know, she was one of the early co-sponsors of the Green New Deal. And more recently, she just got a $3 billion pledge from the US to the Green Climate Fund. She's also the first vice president who's ever visited a Planned Parenthood. No VP or president has ever done that. And she has been continually vocal in her trust for women to make decisions about their own bodies and not have the government tell them what to do. Time and time again, she has taken on tough issues, the ones that don't have an easy fix. But she has shown up, she has listened, and she has leaned in and continued to implement change, all while adjusting her tactics to achieve success as new information comes to light. She is the type of person that gives me something to fight for. And if the past is any indication of the future, this is the type of president America needs, who will fight and get historic reform. This will move us into the future, and that's why I am with Kamala. And I hope tonight inspires you to stay involved, to stay fired up, and keep telling her story and talking to each other about why people need to vote and who they are voting for. So mash that button, and I have to get ready for my speech about couches. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. I think you win the award for best background so far tonight. Our next guest had the most bills enacted into law by U.S. Senator during a single congressional session in over 40 years. He's also one of the most effective senators around bipartisanship. You know, he might make a great VP. I'd like to introduce Senator Gary Peters of the great state of Michigan.
Well, thank you so much. This is just amazing to be on this call with all these folks, all these dudes supporting my friend Kamala Harris. You know, I had the privilege of actually being Kamala's seatmate in the Senate. We got to know each other very well. I consider her a friend, and of course, she's a woman of amazing integrity and passion. But before I talk a little bit about that, I just want to take a moment once again just to thank Joe Biden for what he did in passing the torch, and how much we appreciate that. And can you just imagine a president of the United States who puts the country before himself? That is amazing. And it is a clear difference from the guy who wants to be back in the White House, which is why we have to win. The thing that I really appreciate, though, most about Joe Biden was that he was pro-labor. We heard from Jimmy Williams earlier. You know, he's the most pro-union president ever. To me, that's incredibly important, especially from the state of Michigan. Union is incredibly important in my state. People are passionate about the ability to join one. And it's personal to me. My father was a union member. My father-in-law was in the UAW. My mother was a union steward for the SEIU union, and she organized her workplace. She was a nurse's aide, a person who you may be familiar with nurses' aides. They're overworked, they're underpaid, they're underappreciated. But she knew that the only way that she would get ahead was by joining a union. They collectively got together and made that happen. That's what freedom is about. We've been talking about freedom here in this program here. Freedom to collectively bargain, to fight for fair wages, to have affordable health care. And when it's all said and done, after you've worked, retire with dignity. And let's be clear, that's what Kamala Harris is all about. She believes in her soul about the need for workers to be able to join unions. She's been out on the stump recently, talked to a major union. And you compare that, elections are all about contrast. You contrast that to two phonies that are on the other side. Donald Trump, when Joe Biden came into Detroit and walked the picket line with the UAW members, the first time that a president ever did it. I was on that picket line with folks, and they talked about how authentic he is and real, just like Kamala Harris. And what did Trump do when he came into Detroit? He had a rally that he said was pro-union, and he did it in a non-union shop. There were no union members there. You've got J.D. Vance, who basically does a photo op. He's never lifted his finger once for working men and women in this country. And I don't believe you can have a middle class without a strong and vibrant union movement. That's who is in our heart and soul as Democrats, and that's what we're going to continue to fight for. It's going to be a key part of this coalition, and I know Kamala is going to fight to make that a reality. But I just have one last thought. It's about J.D. Vance in particular, about how he thinks about women. And we all love the women in our lives, whether it's our mothers, our sisters, our wives, our daughters, and we worship our loved ones. But what does J.D. Vance think about women? I just want to leave one idea. Think about this. He is strongly pro-life. He does not believe that women should have the reproductive freedom necessary for their proper care. And he does not believe that there should be any exceptions for rape or incest. And he was asked in particular about rape. And what did he think? If a woman was she raped? And she had to carry that baby, what did he think about it? Well, this was the word he used. He said, well, rape is inconvenient. Well, guys, on this call, rape is not inconvenient. It is absolutely catastrophic. To me, that should disqualify J.D. Vance. It should disqualify Trump, who led to the overturn of Roe v. Wade. And as men, we need to come together and understand that this is an attack against the people we love so much, the women who are in our lives. We have to win this race. We will win this race. We've got to come together. We've got to win in Michigan, my state. I think it's safe to say you probably can't be president of the United States if you don't win Michigan, but you got to win in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and other states. But this is where the battle is. We've got to dig deep, put every nickel we can into this race that we can afford, get out there and work, talk to our friends, because the future of this country truly is at stake. So thank you for having me on this program. This is amazing to have this kind of energy. We're seeing it on the grounds in Michigan, but we got 100 more days. This is going to be a long slog. Together, we will do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Peters. That got me real fired up. Our next guest is someone you definitely know because he's Mikey, Rudy, Samwise. This guy only knows how to play the most inspirational characters. But he's also an incredible activist for democracy and has even served on the President's Council on Service and Civic Participation. So he knows a little bit about getting dudes involved. Our next guest is Sean Astin.
Thanks, Ross. Yeah, I feel that Senator's passion and upset on that. I think I was 20 or 21 years old, and my neighbor across the street told me he was going to a men's group. And I was like, what? He said, oh yeah, I'm going to my men's group. And I couldn't, is it a cult? I didn't, the concept was just, I didn't get it. And then a few years later, my little brother, who was addicted to drugs and alcohol, called and agreed to accept help. And so we found a good program for him to go through. He did it 90 days. It was awesome. But like families feel when someone goes through that, there's uncertainty about whether or not they'll relapse, about what's going to happen with their life, you know? And after about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years of him regularly coming, he had moved back to be with my dad on the East Coast, but regularly coming back, and you'd kind of be like, oh, do you have work? Like, what's going on? He was always coming back to be with his men's group. I think they had more than white men in that group. So, but the idea that men can gather to talk about how we feel, interesting, powerful concept. And to include all, we said in our invitation, everyone is welcome. That's a really interesting phrase. Everyone is welcome. You might hear it in other places. I'm pretty sure you can feel that it's true here with this particular political party and this particular candidate. My mother was president of the Screen Actors Guild. I've been married for 34 years, 32 years, 34 years with my wife, Christine. We have 3 beautiful daughters. To me, there's reverence, absolute reverence for women, because mostly I probably wouldn't survive if I didn't, because I barely have a vote with my beautiful women in my life. When I think about smashing the donation button, I think of honoring them. I think of honoring their life and their experience, which I've learned things about women watching my daughters grow up that nobody warned me about. I thought the dad's job was supposed to help prepare them for, college and their love relationships. I didn't know that it was dangerous for women to just walk down the street. I didn't know that they would, I just didn't understand the kinds of things that affected them in the ways that they do. And as a father, that you just want to protect. You just want to protect them. You want to help them. Lifting up a qualified, tested, proven woman into the presidency so that all girls for all time can know that that's possible, that our country, get the placemat out when you're with a kindergartner and you're looking at the placemat of the presidents, not one woman. And the other side, they try and take everything that's good about us and demean it. Kamala Harris smiles. She laughs. She dances. She has joy. She's alive. And they try and ridicule her for that. And they try and undermine us for that. This is a serious person who can prosecute a tough case against people when she's in the Senate. Those are some of the most exciting moments during that awful time, was watching this senator take them to task. Kavanaugh and some of those other people that I watched her fully prepared for her moments. So exquisite with her use of language. Such seriousness of purpose that she has. Full package. I'm a leader of my union. I was a delegate and gave a keynote speech 2 weeks ago at the California Labor Federation. What the governor was saying, or the 2 governors and the senator were saying about Kamala Harris being a part of the labor movement. These people were 750 labor union leaders in California blew the roof off the place talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. $40 billion bailout of a retirement fund for the Teamsters. All these things, they had the receipts. The UAW president, Sean Fain, the Teamster, or the flight attendant labor president, Sarah Nelson. these people were talking about the Democratic Party and these Democratic leaders in terms that were just so inspiring. So I just want to say like two last things. I have been so proud to be a volunteer. I don't know how many people, when you're watching this, if you're watching back, have ever actually volunteered. You're looking at the strongest, toughest professionals, and by toughest, I mean the quality of their minds, these professional politicians that are here. I don't know how many of you watching understand the professional world of politics, but what I interfaced was as a volunteer, show up at the place in the mall and get on the phone and start making the calls. I actually got to canvass with Dolores Huerta. If you don't know who Dolores Huerta is, she was the co-founder of the United Farm Workers Movement. And I went door to door with Dolores Huerta. And I was looking at all the cameras that were following us and thinking about what I was going to say. Dolores wanted to make sure that the person whose door we were knocking on knew where their polling place was and knew what time knew what date it was. And if they didn't understand, she took whatever time it took to explain it to them. Details matter. Caring about the details with each my father always told me every human interaction is sacred. So I'm committed that today, what I did, I'm a very busy guy. I'm finishing my master's. That's another thing. I've learned getting my master's in public policy and public administration that the mid-level bureaucrat administrator in our country, they're heroes and they get totally overlooked by this process. And I'd like to have a president who actually cares about them, not who wants to cut all the funding to their department. Those people need support, these administrators. And finally, I would just say that you said it, Ross, at the beginning. You talked about loneliness. You talked about loneliness, the loneliness crisis in America. I go and I give speeches on mental health all over the country. And what all the mental health professionals that I've been talking to for the last 3 years are saying is it was anxiety as the number one thing, and now it's loneliness. When you're volunteering on a presidential campaign, there's actually such community and such deceptive loneliness. Because you spend a full day knocking on doors and you go home and you sit at home and all of a sudden you think, what was that expenditure of energy? What did it mean? Who knows about it? Who cares? Every single person who will be positively impacted by the policies that get passed because you put in the effort when maybe no one else noticed it, that's who cares. And you may never see them. That's it for now.
Wow. Thank you so much, Sean. That was really, really powerful. I love the idea of thinking about who we're honoring when we donate to Vice President Harris. And I thank you for that really, really deeply personal story. Our next guest knows a lot about tough elections and taking on Donald Trump. We have Congressman Adam Schiff here, who has represented California's 30th district since 2001. During the Trump years, Congressman Schiff was the lead impeachment manager on Trump's first impeachment. And he's running to be the next senator from California. Please welcome Congressman Adam Schiff.
Ross, thanks so much. Great to be with all you dudes. And it is just wonderful to see the incredible excitement just over the last week and a half, this outpouring of enthusiasm and sudden interest in engaging and getting involved is really going to carry the day for us in November. And so I'm just thrilled to join you. And please go ahead, interrupt my speaking, press that button, take time to press that button, smash that button, contribute, make sure you do your part as we're all trying to do to make sure that Kamala Harris is successful in November. I just want to take a moment to share a few thoughts on what's at stake here. All of us on this Zoom grew up in the post-World War II period when we saw around the world new democracies being born. We saw walls coming down. We saw freedoms expand at home and abroad. We saw the ability to freely associate with whom we would, practice our faith, love whom we would love. And we came to believe that this was somehow inexorable, like a law of gravity, that the world was ever democratizing, ever becoming more progressive and liberal, only to discover much to our shock, that there's nothing inevitable, nothing inexorable about this. And in fact, that every generation, as it would turn out, has to struggle to preserve democracy. Thank God we don't have to go to war like our parents or grandparents' generation had to. Thank God that all we need to do is get ourselves to the polls, to make sure that we get out and vote, that we get our neighbors out to vote, that we get our kids out to vote, that we participate in our democracy. We are all going to have to answer to the generations come after, what did we do when our democracy was at stake? We have in Donald Trump someone who could give a damn about our institutions, our democracy, who only cares about himself. Somebody who says he wants to be a dictator on day one. Someone who says if you vote for him now, you never have to vote again. How in hell can that guy be a candidate for anything in this country? Someone who incited a violent attack on the Capitol, someone who wants to pardon all those criminals, someone who's a criminal himself. And I'll tell you how this is possible, because I've seen this in the halls of Congress, and that is he has so many enablers, so many people willing to go along with him in the pure desire to further their ambition. People like J.D. Vance. People like J.D. Vance who recognized him as a potential Hitler, who described him as a cultural opioid, who said he was unfit for office, now rushing to be a partner in that unfit ticket. Robert Carroll, the historian, once said that power doesn't corrupt as much as it reveals. Well, power's revealed a lot about people like J.D. Vance and Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy and so many others willing to sacrifice everything they said they once believed in, all on the altar of their ambition and gaining power. But we have the ability to reinforce and strengthen and preserve our democracy. We have the ability to make an incredible woman the President of the United States. We have the ability to restore reproductive freedom. We have the ability to reform the Supreme Court. All of this we can do. All of this we can do within less than 4 months. Hit that button again. Take a moment, hit that button again. We have less than 4 months. And here's the thing. These have been heavy times. These have been difficult times, I think, on all of us. And you've heard so many of the prior speakers talk about all the challenges that we've been through in this country. But we're going to get through this. This too shall pass. We are an incredibly resilient country. We have beautiful, patriotic people in every state of the union. This too shall pass. The only question is, does this pass in less than 4 months? Or does it take more than 4 years? And the answer to that question will be decided by all of us and our neighbors and our fellow Americans will decide that question. And it is wonderful to see now the engagement, the excitement, the hope for the future, and what we can do to preserve our planet, to provide safety for our kids in their classrooms for gun violence, what we can do to restore reproductive freedom and continue to grow our freedoms and help grow democracy around the world, help Ukraine and other allies defend themselves against those who would use military force to remake the map of their region. This is all in our hands. And I'm so grateful to all of you for turning out tonight. I'm so grateful for all you're doing now, your generosity, for your willingness to volunteer and get involved. We are going to get through this. We are going to get through this. And thank you for your part in making that happen. Thanks, dudes. And a special shout out to Jeff Bridges. As you can tell, I'm a fan of The Big Lebowski here. And Jeff, I thought your comments really tied the whole conversation together. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you so much, Congressman. And I'm excited to, in the not too distant future, possibly call you Senator. Really quick, I just want to give a shout out to one of our other congressional friends, Congressman Jamie Raskin, who we're really excited to work with over the next 100 days. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I also just got another note. So longtime investor Ron Conaway is going to be matching the next $10,000 that we raise. So please keep donating. We're at over $3.2 million raised, but things have slowed down a little bit. So we need you to keep it going. So keep smashing that donate button. I'm also seeing that we've sold 4,700 White Dudes for Harris hats for the 47th president. So loving that. Keep buying those hats. Buy them for friends and family. Our next guest is a Golden Globe and Emmy award-winning actor, director, entrepreneur, who's probably ever entertained you at every stage of your life in iconic movies like A River Runs Through It, Angels in the Outfield, 10 Things I Hate About You, Looper, Inception, Don John, to name just a select few. We'd love to welcome Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much. I'm honored to follow Mr. Schiff, Adam, your hero. So I want to talk for a little bit about business. I've mostly earned my living as an entertainer, but I've also run a company. My dad ran a small business successfully for 30-something years. His dad was a successful businessman who started when he was 12 years old, working in South Central LA during the Depression. 12 years old, keeping the books for his dad's business. So business kind of runs in my blood, and I think that's why it stands out to me when I hear people say this thing. You've probably heard people saying this. They say, yeah, I don't like Trump. I know he's a bad guy, but he's a businessman. And, times are hard, and I have to look out for me and my family, and we need a president who can be good for the economy, who's a businessman. And it's understandable. Money is short in this country for a lot of people. So I can see how people get there. But I want to talk about this. First of all, I'm not so sure Trump has been a good businessman. I mean, he likes to say that he's a self-made man, but he's lying. He inherited a ton of money from his dad. And when you start out with that much initial capital, it's a little bit like shooting fish in a barrel. But even if he were a successful businessman, which I'm not sure he has been, I think there are pretty much two different types of successful business people in this world. There are the honest business people who have an honest to goodness, valuable product or good or service that they can bring to the world. And they treat their employees well. They treat their investors and their vendors and their customers well. And in turn, they are treated well and they do well as a businessman or business person. An honest business person. That's the kind of business person my dad was. And it's the kind that I strive to be. There's another type of successful businessman or woman, business person. And that's the con man. And I know there are also con women too, but if we're really honest, in this white dudes group, most of the biggest, baddest cons in the world are guys. So let's just say con man for short, right? A con man is different than an honest businessman. Might or might not have an honest to goodness product or service to offer the world, but it doesn't really matter, right? He's charismatic. He's good at lying. He's good at getting people on his side, his customers, his employees, his vendors, his investors. And he doesn't really give a shit about them. And as soon as he needs to, he's ready to screw them over as long as he ends up with the money. That's a con man. It's not exactly the kind of man you want to be, but it is one way to be successful in business. So ask yourself, let's just say Donald Trump is a successful businessman, which I don't think he is. Is it because he's been an honest businessman? Or is it because he's a con man? I think that's really, really obvious. This guy is a con man. Of course he is. He's consistently screwed over. Look at his past business careers, consistently screwed over his customers, his tenants, his employees. Look at his past presidency, where his signature program was cutting taxes for rich people. It's con man. Now, there are some folks who then say, yeah, but that's just it, right? We need that kind of aggressive, brutal businessman on our side because he's going to screw over all those other countries and that'll be good for us. But it's not true. It's not what would happen. It's not what happened so far. It's not how a con man operates. If you think that he's going to look out for middle class, working class, ordinary American people, I'm sorry, but that's just not how it ever goes with guys like this. He'll screw over everybody, just like every con man does. And if he's going to help anybody, it's going to be guys like him, rich and powerful people, helping them get more rich and powerful. It's just not going to actually add up to helping ordinary Americans with whatever money troubles they're having. So this is why we need a president who can prosecute con men like this. This is why we need Kamala Harris for our president. And this is why I am supporting her. So here's what I would like you to do. Besides, as everyone has reminded us, and it's so important to hit that donate button because that's some tangible difference you can make right now. But in addition to that, find one friend of yours. I bet you have at least one friend who you've heard this from, who you've heard say, no, I don't like him. He's bad. He's disrespectful. He says bad things, but he's a businessman. Have a conversation with them. Just dig a little deeper. See what's underneath that. Because I think if you actually spend any time thinking about it, not just sort of impressed by how he looks rich, if you actually think about it, is this guy going to really help any Americans with their money troubles? I think it's really, really obvious that he doesn't put America first like that, no matter how often he likes to say it. The guy lies, puts himself first. That's what he does. That's what a con man does. So that's it for me. Thank you. Let's go, Kamala.
Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. All right, everybody, we've got to get to $3.5 million in the next 15 minutes or so. We're at we're around 3.3 right now. So hit that donate button. I've got my phone right here. I'm also going to give $25 or whatever I can, whatever you can right now. Give. We also, I just saw literally came into my inbox 1 second ago that we just hit 150,000 people on the stream tonight. So thank you so much, everyone who's been on. Thank you for your support. Please keep sharing this out with folks because we've got amazing speakers to come. Our next guest is someone who's very important to me. He's a dear friend, one of the best organizers I've ever known. George Gohl has been organizing rural communities and has taught many of us what we know in his book, The Fundamentals of Organizing. George is a Midwesterner who has been organizing for decades. He's the former executive director of one of the largest organizing networks in the country, People's Action, and wrote the book for organizers. Please welcome my dear friend, George Gohl.
Hey, Ross. Thanks for having me. Thanks for your leadership and courage pulling this together. A very big deal and big move. I've spent 30 years organizing working class people to come together across race and win. And there's one candidate in this presidential election who stands for working class people, and that's Kamala Harris. I grew up in southern Indiana, in a really white part of the state. And one of the towns we lived in has been so devastated by plant closures that literally every single storefront downtown has been closed. And just down the road a few miles, the same story, when 192 people who were struggling with addiction in a 4,000 person town contracted HIV in just a couple months. Later, I moved to Chicago and became an organizer on the West Side, and it was really just more of the same. Plant closures up and down one-time industrial strongholds. And like Indiana, the good jobs and factories that were once there had been replaced by despair and addiction. So you got rural white Indiana and Black and Latino neighborhoods in Chicago, two places that I think for many of us that we think of as a world apart, share many of the same hurts. So we've got working class people across race that are hurting right now. And working class people across race were hurting during the financial crisis. And there was one leader who especially stood up. In that moment, it was California AG Kamala Harris, who went toe to toe with the big banks, and she secured a $20 billion settlement to help save people's homes. Meanwhile, in Donald Trump, we've got a candidate who does not deliver for the working class, who doesn't even respect the working class, and does everything in his power to divide the working class. Nearly 40% of households in this country bring home less than $50,000. Not people, households, 40%. These are Black households, Latino households, Native, Asian, and white. There is nothing that the right wants less than going up against a working class coalition that is Black, Latino, Native, Asian, and white, because that coalition wins. That's why they're hell-bent on picking off working class voters in places like I grew up, especially white voters. But in 2020, 32% of Joe Biden's 81 million votes, 32% came from white people who didn't go to college. Working class white people were a big part of the coalition that defeated Trump in 2020 and are going to be essential to doing it again in 2024. So I just say to all the white dudes on this call, like, be organizers. Go organize your family, go to your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, and talk to people and have hard conversations and make it clear who's going to show up for the working class. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. Really, really appreciate you for being here. Our next speaker is a legendary legislator who has left a historic mark on Congress over his 42-year career as a representative. Congressman Steny Hoyer is the most senior member of the House Democratic Caucus, representing Maryland's 5th Congressional District, and it is my honor to welcome the former House Majority Leader, Steny Hoyer, to speak.
Hi, Ross. Thank you so much for including me. This has been so inspirational for me to hear all these people talking about why this election is so important. And, you know, I'm going to call this White Dudes for America. And therefore, they are white dudes for Kamala, because Kamala supports this country, its Constitution, its Declaration, its principles, and its promise. And that's why we all need to get together and support Kamala Harris for America and for American people. Last week, you know, Vice President Harris shared her vision for, and I quote, a future where every person has the opportunity not to just get by, but to get ahead. And that's what she stands for, and that's why we're for her. She needs our help, however, to deliver on that vision. We need to sign up to volunteer, as so many people on this call have already said, whether it's making telephone calls, knocking on doors, talking to your neighbors, doing postcards to your friends, whatever that is for you, feeling effective on behalf of Kamala, which of course is being effective on behalf of America and its principles that we talked about. You can contribute by going to whitedudesforharris.com. And by the way, Ross, I've been listening to everybody, and I listen to those folks who are going to donate $50,000 and match others who contributed. Well, I'm going to match one of those 50,000 because it's for our country, not just for Kamala. Kamala is a way we make our country's values real and to keep them in place. This is a historic moment that testifies to the strength of American democracy and to our unity and determination to protect that democracy. So critical to my 3 children, my 3 grandchildren, my 4 great-grandchildren, my wife's 10 grandchildren. That's what this election is about. Joe Biden is absolutely correct when he says this election is about the soul and of America and the character of America, led by, or we're opposing a person who has neither soul nor character. It is crucial that we stand behind Vice President Kamala Harris in that effort. Whether as a prosecutor, California State Attorney General, United States Senator, or Vice President of the United States, she has shown herself to be of somebody of character for the people. And she has, with Joe Biden, not just promised things for the people, an agenda for the people, a vision for the people. She has delivered for the people at a time of great crisis in their lives, in their families, in their jobs, caused by the pandemic. She and Joe Biden stepped up to give help where it was needed. She, along with Joe Biden, didn't promise, as the previous president did, that they were going to deliver infrastructure dollars, investment for the people every week, every month, every year. Never did they do it. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris delivered an agenda that is creating millions of jobs over the next decade. And then they delivered on science and chips so that we would be competitive in the 21st century and have the kind of assets that we need to create an economy that gives people a quality of life that they want. She's a staunch defender of our democracy and our values as Americans. One of the most important values the Republicans talk a lot about, but don't deliver, and that is freedom. As a matter of fact, freedom to Republicans is what they want you to do. Freedom for Democrats is what you, the people, want to do. I'm confident that she will lead us to the triumph over a Republican candidate determined to undermining our democracy at every turn. As so many on this call have said, who better to beat a convicted felon than a former prosecutor? Who better to campaign against a man whose only major policy accomplishment was cutting taxes for the wealthiest in America than someone who has spent the past 4 years, as I've just said, investing in America and investing in Americans and their families? Who better to counter a voice of division, demagoguery, and discord than a voice who speaks for unity, civility, and truth? That's why my friend Kamala Harris has my strong endorsement and the strong endorsement of every Democrat in the Congress of the United States, as far as I can tell, and why I urge all of us to support her as well in supporting our country, its values, its Constitution, its Declaration of Independence, and opposing someone who led a treasonous effort to overthrow the government of the United States of America. Kamala Harris has helped carry the torch for these past 4 years. Now, Ross, it's time for us to help her carry it across the finish line in November. Joe Biden has inspired us all, and Kamala Harris has fired us up. If we all do our part, I have no doubt that in 99 days, Ross, we will celebrate a victory, not just for Kamala Harris, but a victory for America, a victory for Americans, and a very real way, a victory for our global community. Thank you for allowing me to participate. I've been inspired.
Thank you so much, Congressman. And I just got to say, thank you so much for that generous match. You guys heard it. Congressman Hoyer is in for $50,000. We got to get that match. So please go click that donate button. Our next guest has played a huge part in a lot of our lives as an actor. He doesn't really need an introduction. So I'm just gonna take this moment to welcome Mark Hamill to speak.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, I'm here for one reason, and that is the Biden-Harris administration was the most successful legislative administration first since LBJ in 2 years. Now, in 3.5 years, the most legislatively successful administration since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They always say this is the most important election of our lifetime. I've heard that, since I first voted in the 70s, but never has it been more true. When I think one thing about Trump is he tells you what he's going to do. He takes credit for getting rid of Roe v. Wade and said everybody wanted to get rid of Roe v. Wade. So when I meet people, I'm a working actor. I think more recently, I'm much more like a professional selfie taker. I take selfies all the time in the airports, in the supermarkets, on the streets, always selfies. And I ask them, you don't have to tell me who you're going to vote for. Are you registered? That's the most important thing. I saw a statistic, it was on the internet, so take it with a grain of salt, that 40 million registered Democrats didn't vote in 2020, which is astonishing. I tell people, go to iwillvote.com. It's very simple. You can go to their website. You can find out where your polling place is. You can get access to mail-in ballots, but you've got to vote. You've got to vote. And I'm going to keep my remarks short because I've agreed with pretty much everything that has been said in the last couple of hours. But it's just so important. It's what I tell people is you don't have to read all 900 pages, but Google Project 2025. It's more terrifying than anything that Edgar Allan Poe or Stephen King ever wrote. The idea of firing 50,000 civil servants and putting in loyalists who, the prerequisite is you have to believe that the 2020 election was stolen. It's just unthinkable that they're so forthcoming with what they want to do. Get rid of the Department of Education completely. They're going to try and remake what we know as democracy into an autocracy. It's no surprise that he idolizes Viktor Orban and the dictators of the world. That's what he yearns to be. Again, he said it out loud that he wants to be a dictator from day one. So never has it been more important for us to stand up to his mental illness and vote for Kamala in 2024. So talk to your friends, find out if they're registered. Tell your friends to ask their friends and so on, like a chain letter, to make sure they know how easy it is to make their voices heard. I don't see the donate button on my screen, but as soon as I get off this call, I'm going to go and donate. When I signed up for the call, I also looked for a donate button. Or maybe I'm just, I'm technically challenged, but I'll get my daughter to help me out with that. So I wish you all the best. Thank you for having me. And let us get out there and make sure that Kamala is our next president. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was great. Yeah, it was such an honor to have you. Our next guest is an incredible author, academic, podcaster. Scott Galloway is a professor of marketing at the NYU Stern School of Business. He's an entrepreneur. His podcast, blog, and YouTube channels are some of the biggest on the internet, reaching millions. I personally listen to a few of his podcasts. Please welcome author, entrepreneur, and internet celebrity, Scott Galloway.
Thanks very much, Ross. My name is Scott Galloway. I teach at NYU. I consider myself a man, and I think my job is to provide and protect, and the way that manifests in this age is to ensure that Vice President Harris is in the White House. I'll touch on three things. First is the economy. I don't think the Democrats have done a great job messaging around the economy. Here's the data. Since 2020, real GDP growth across the G7 has averaged 3.5%. Germany and the UK laggards less than 2%. Real GDP growth since 2020 in the United States has been 8.5%. It has been double what the average GDP growth across the G7 would say. Well, the economy's running hot. That must mean there's terrible inflation. Our inflation is the lowest across the G7. So let me get this. The Goldilocks chocolate and peanut butter combination of the strongest growth with the lowest inflation. What is the result of that? 15.4 million new jobs created in 3.5 years, more jobs than have been created in any 8-year tenure of any presidency. Fun fact, China has shed $6 trillion in market capitalization in the last 5 years. The S&P in the United States has doubled. There are 195 nations, 194 of them all wish they were the United States. The Biden-Harris administration has put on a master class in how to pull off the strongest economy in the world. The best investment in modern history is the investment the Biden-Harris administration have made in Ukraine. For $60 billion a year, approximately 10% of our military budget, we have taken out a third of Russia's kinetic power. We have defanged the ridiculous notion that this was a ferocious army, and we have given Xi real pause not to invade Taiwan. And most of that money has come back to red states, to manufacturers and weapons suppliers. This is the greatest investment in the history of the modern economy. As a Jew, a proud Jew, I was rattled by the events of October 7th. Quite frankly, I was very disappointed in some of the rhetoric coming out of the far left of my own party. I haven't become a one-issue voter, but I'm very concerned about Israel. And here's the bottom line on Biden-Harris as it relates to Israel. No one has been a more steadfast ally of Israel than Biden-Harris. Within days of October 7th, the Hamas was hoping to inspire a multi-front war. The Biden-Harris administration immediately deployed 2 carrier strike forces and told Iran and its proxies to sit the fuck down. Nobody has been stronger on Israel than Biden and Harris. And all this tough macho talk about the notion that finish the job. Well, guess what? In addition to winning this war, which we will, we need an enduring, lasting peace. And who do you trust to figure out the nuance and the diplomacy of a lasting peace in the Middle East? Secretary Blinken, Secretary Austin, and President Harris. This is how we Zionists get an enduring peace in the Middle East. Finally, I raised 2 boys. I should say I'm raising 2 men. Whether we want it or not, the president is the premier role model for young men and women around the world. I am entirely certain a President Harris would never mock the disabled. I'm even more certain that a President Harris would not have sex with a porn star and then try and cover it up illegally with campaign funds. I'm entirely sure that a President Harris will have one marriage and be a wonderful mother for all of those like me out there whose stepmother played a wonderful role in their lives. She is a wonderful mother. I invite all of you like me who have spent the majority of their life talking the talk but not walking the walk to decide if this is a principle, not just an opinion. And the difference between the two is to sacrifice. So I want to do that right now. There's different ways to contribute your time, your treasure, and your talent. I'm going to match that $50,000, or I'm going to put up a $50,000 match, but I'm a selfish person. I need something in return. One of my heroes is on this call, and I'm asking this hero to turn on his mic and say the following in exchange for $50,000, and that is the following. I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. I'm waiting, Mark. I'm waiting.
Can someone unmute Mark? Can we unmute him?
There we go. I'm Luke Skywalker, and I'm here to rescue you, Mr. Galloway. You've got it.
Thanks very much. I'll finish where I ended. My name is Scott Galloway. I teach at NYU. I am a man. We protect and we provide. That is what we do.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate both of y'all. We are about $28,000 away from hitting 3.5 million. So please keep hitting the donate button. And if you're inspired by Mark Hamill coming back on again for us, hit that button. Up next, it's my honor to introduce Congressman Eric Swalwell, who represents the 15th Congressional District in California. He co-chairs the House Democratic Steering Committee. He sits on both the House Committee on Homeland Security and House Judiciary Committee. Representative, thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's all you.
Oh, my pleasure, and really thank all of you for doing this. I represent the East Bay. That's where Kamala Harris grew up. But I'm a son of a cop. I'm a brother to cops. And when I worked in the same prosecutor's office where Kamala got her start, I worked with cops. So I know tough. And you know who's tough? It's Kamala Harris. And so she's tough. She's real. She's ready. She's smart. And something that we're all starting to really see that I really like is that she's fun. And she's a person who can be serious without taking herself too seriously. But what I was hoping to impart on everyone tonight, in my experience of like telling the story of why Kamala and not the past president, is a few things. And so I wanted to just give you kind of 3 things that we all can do. And something that I found helpful in my messaging are these 3 things. And if there's anything that us white dudes like to do, it's to have a good hot take. So as it relates to the debate that Donald Trump said he was going to be a part of, I encourage everyone to use the word dodge. Use dodge instead of backsliding or getting out, because dodge brings up the time that he dodged the Vietnam War with bone spurs. It takes our focus exactly where we want it to be, his cowardly feet. It also has alliteration, and just say it plainly, Donald Trump is dodging the debate. Donald the Dodger. Also, let's talk about Trump's age. Don't say 78-year-old. Let's say almost 80, because he is. And this guy, for the last 2 years, has wanted to make this race entirely about age. You know what, pal? You got it. We aren't running against Donald Trump. We are running against Old Trump. He's an old man with old ideas, and we should say that every day as we communicate what he threatens to all of us. And finally, in your messaging, as you talk to neighbors, as you knock on doors, and I don't want us to forget about knocking on doors. We can put our hot takes out there on social media, but nothing beats, especially in the swing states, eyeball to eyeball at someone's doorstep making your case. And so my first rule always in messaging is tell me a story or bore me. Tell your story as to why you're supporting Kamala and why we can't have Trump. I'll tell you, from being a prosecutor and seeing people come through the district attorney's office, Donald Trump bragging that he's going to beat Kamala Harris so easily, I've seen other people think that. Other sexual predators and rapists think that. So to Donald Trump, I say, if you want to find out how this movie ends, you should go ask them, but you're going to have to go to a prison to do it. So bring your own story and personalize it to you. People like to repeat something that made them smile. So tell me a story or bore me. Finally, I think about my 3 little kids and what we can do to make sure they don't have to suffer the real consequences of Donald Trump. Recently, I walked in a parade in my hometown of Dublin, California, and we always pass out rubber duckies in every parade. It was the first parade that I asked my children to join me. And so I had my 7-year-old and my 5-year-old, they're working the parade, they're passing out duckies. And my 7-year-old Nelson walks up to a little girl to give her a little rubber ducky with the campaign logo on it. And as she hands the girl the ducky, this older guy standing behind her, who I think is probably her dad, looks at my son and he says, "We're for Trump." And my son looks at me and then he looks back at the guy and he said, "Who's Trump?" And I think that is what is really right in front of us. We have a chance to make sure that our kids never, ever know or live through the worst policies of Donald Trump. For the rest of us, sure, we won't be able to forget what he's done, but we can really save our children. But I also want you to know that we can talk less and less about Donald Trump. We've had MAGA idiots and violence for so long now. You may think that that's going to be with us forever. We're wrong. It won't be. He's had an evil charisma and a 14-year-long political ad in the television show that he ran. But I promise you, if we beat Trump in November, we will finally have extinguished this MAGA madness forever. Because you can't just be an asshole and ride to be the GOP nominee. If you don't believe me, just ask Ron DeSantis. So let's do this. 99 days to go, dudes. Let's have some fun, though. And something I learned in sports growing up, the team that always has the most fun wins. And I'm having a lot of fun tonight. 99 more fun days to go. Thank you all.
Thank you, Congressman. Let's go. Also, offline, I'd love to find out where you got that shirt. It's awesome. You know our next guest as a scene stealer in Lioness, House of Cards, Jack Ryan, in almost 30 years as a successful working actor. And though he often plays a villain, he's an all-around good guy, is active in supporting services for our elders, making our country better. Through his advocacy, he's been able to ensure critical legislation to help give older adults and caregivers the support they need in their communities across the country. Please help me wish a warm welcome for actor and activist Michael Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Brad, for having me. It's a real honor to be with all you dudes. What's up, dudes and dudettes? I see you, Aaron. It's a real honor to be here, honestly. I have such admiration and respect for all of you guys who spoke tonight. I'm blown away by what's happening and the 150,000 people jumping on this. This is special, man. Over $3 million raised for something that we all believe so strongly in. It's so easy to get behind this woman, and the fire and the swell that's coming throughout the country. You feel it, man. It's a big wave, and it's an emotional for all of us. I'm just so thrilled to be here. So, yeah. Like Josh Gad said, smash the button, man. Let's take it to 4 million. Let's go crazy. Let's raise a ton of money. This is such a great cause. I want to say a special thank you to Governor Tim Walz. That was, man, that was inspiring as hell. What everyone's saying is inspiring, but man, that dude blew me away. First and foremost, I think it's so important to say we all need to get engaged. Like everyone's saying, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends. I'm from the South. I'm a Georgia boy. I live in New York now, but I have lots of friends down South. And as you would well imagine, a lot of those folks are on the other side of the aisle. Just talk to them. Tell your story and hear their story, and try to switch them over to your side. You know, I hope that Professor Galloway, I'm a huge fan of yours, buddy, and I hope that you will take those 3 points that you talked about and blast them out on an email to all of us, because you are so good, man, and so on point with that messaging. And those are really important things to tell folks. But that's what this is about. It's about communicating with your neighbors, because this is it. Democracy's on the ballot. I truly believe that. I've been saying it for a long time, and people are like, oh, you're a fatalist. I'm not. I believe it. Democracy's on the ballot. And this is as consequential of an election, I think, as we will likely see in our lifetime. So we got to do our part. For me, I'm not just doing this for myself. I'm doing this for the women in my life. I'm doing this for my mother, for my wife, for my daughter, for my sisters, and for all of their daughters. These women, they need us right now. It is up to us. They're going to be there on the day. It's up to us to be there. And it's up to us to get other white dudes to be there. Because like everyone said earlier, it's the white dudes who let us down in 2016. It's the white dudes who typically let us down there. It's up to us, man. We got to get out there, and we got to talk to our brothers, and we got to get the message out. This is too important. So that's all I got to say. I like the selfie idea too. I'm sure I don't take nearly as many selfies as you do, but I take a fair share of selfies, and that is a fantastic idea. And I'm going to take that, Mark Hamill, and I'm going to use it every single time. You said it, iwillvote.com. That's what every person who takes a picture with me will hear me say from now on. So let's get out there, brothers. Let's do this, man. Let's come together and get fired up, man. I love you all. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor.
Hell yeah. Thank you. I also want to say, y'all, I just saw that we have over 60,000 individual contributions that have been made since we've been on this. That's incredible. We have over 166,000 people who've tuned in to watch this live stream. That's also just so incredible and honestly super inspiring. I'm having an awesome time. And our next guest is going to bring even more fire. He is one of the biggest names in music. Lance Bass is a singer and actor. We also know him as a member of NSYNC and a trailblazing LGBTQ activist. More importantly, Lance's TikTok with VP Harris has racked up over 38 million views in the last 48 hours. Like all of us, he's ready to say bye, bye, bye to Donald Trump. I can't believe I read that. Please welcome Lance Bass to speak.
Thanks for having me, Ross. Yeah, I mean, we shot that video a month ago, and I had no idea how relevant it would be today. So thank God. I mean, thanks for having me, everybody. I have my daughter here because I just wanted her to see all of these amazing faces and be a part of democracy because she's one of the reasons I am doing this today. I am doing this for her future and my son's future. As a diabetic, as a gay married man with children from IVF, co-chair of the Environmental Media Association, everything I am is opposite of what the Trump campaign stands for. And that is why I want to be heavily involved, this year. Like many of you on this call, I wasn't very hopeful for this election and the future of our country. And this exciting turn of events in the last few weeks has really changed that for me and so many people. And to see how invigorated everyone is has just been so incredible. I am so hopeful right now. I met Kamala Harris over 15 years ago at dinner, and I just remember once I shook her hand, I told her, I feel like I just met the future president of the United States. And I cannot believe we are here today. I'm not saying I'm psychic, but I might be a little psychic. But I've been thinking a lot about this upcoming election and why it's so important to support Vice President Kamala Harris. As a white guy, it's easy to think these issues don't affect us directly, but that's exactly why we need to pay attention. Harris's leadership and her commitment to justice are exactly what we need right now. She's faced so many challenges and has always stood up for what is right. And this is a pivotal moment for our country. And supporting her means pushing for a future that is fair and inclusive. And let's not forget the Supreme Court. I would not have my marriage right now if it wasn't for the Supreme Court we had. If that was up to them today, there's no way I'd be able to be married to the man I love or probably not have the kids that I have today. And for us, this isn't just about politics. It's about recognizing our privilege and the role we can play in making things better. And we need to back leaders who are committed to real change and equality. And Harris represents those values, and supporting her is more than just her. It's about standing up for justice and fairness. And we have a responsibility to use our voices and our influence to help shape the kind of society we want to live in. So let's come together. Let's support Kamala Harris. We can make a difference by organizing, talking to our friends and family, making sure everyone understands what is at stake. This is our chance to help build a more inclusive future for everyone, and it starts with us. Like everyone has said, which this panel has been incredible. I'm so honored to be here. I see so many familiar and friendly faces. Not only do I love you for your body of work, but you're just good people, and I'm just honored to be with you all. But volunteer. Just please volunteer. This is the perfect opportunity to teach your kids about civics. Volunteer as a family, any level that you can. Make this fun for them, and don't forget to send all your loved ones to like vote.gov or iwillvote.com just to make sure that they're registered. So many people just forget, oh my God, I'm not registered. So, just make sure everyone is registered. Talk to your loved ones. It is all about those personal stories. And guys, we got this. I believe in this. And I just appreciate every single person that is tuned in today and donating. So again, donate, donate, donate. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so much, Lance. I think you win the award for second best Zoom background so far.
Well, if you only saw my husband here holding up a towel, because if you put it down, please. Perfect time for the sunset. So sorry about that.
Oh man, I love it. Thank you so much. Our next guest, Misha Collins, is an actor, advocate, and poet. He may be best known as one of the stars of the show Supernatural on the CW. Thank you for being here, Misha. Off to you.
You'd think that after watching 50 people not unmute themselves, I would unmute myself, but I failed to do so. It's so exciting to be in a political Zoom call with a bunch of people and feel fired up and enthusiastic and optimistic and hopeful. It has not felt like that for a long time, and it is just good for the soul to be amongst you all. 99 seems to be a magical number here. We have 99 days until the election. Also, it has been 99 years that the largest collection of white men in America, the record has been held for the last 99 years by the Ku Klux Klan. 30,000 of them descended in 1925 on Washington, D.C., and it is a truly wonderful thing for us to be unseating the Klan with our group here tonight. We are, it sounds like more than 5 times that number of people have showed up to this Zoom. So congratulations, all of you, for showing up. When I first saw the white dudes for Harris byline, I thought, oh, that's a little cringy. And I realized my own bias, which is we hear about white men congregating and we think of tiki torches and AR-15s and the Klan. And I think it's a really beautiful opportunity for us to take back that identity from those bands of bigots and misogynists, because they don't define who we are. I just want to invite you for a second to join in a little thought experiment with me. Wouldn't it be great if at some point in the near future, an audio tape were leaked of some women engaging in locker room banter where they're saying something like, you know, I hate to stereotype, but in my experience, white men, they tend to fight for democracy and access to healthcare and civil rights and human rights and environmental justice and economic equality and reproductive rights. And in my experience, white dudes tend to fight like hell to put women and people of color in positions of power and leadership. That's how I would love for all of us to be known in the future. I'm not going to take much time talking about the delta between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, because I think that we're all on the same page here. We all know how high the stakes are here. But there are a couple of specific points that I wanted to raise. I remember back in 2016, 2017, having so many conversations with so many friends coming back from Thanksgiving or the holidays and reporting that they just can't talk to their MAGA relatives anymore, their Trump supporting uncle in Pennsylvania, or their parents who had gone MAGA in Wisconsin. There, so many of these conversations stopped happening. And I would invite everybody listening right now to take this as an opportunity to revisit that thinking. A lot of people have already mentioned that people who vote for Donald Trump are not bad people for the most part. For the most part, they're people who've been, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt said, they've been conned into thinking that this magic elixir that Donald Trump is selling is somehow going to magically bring them out of this economically disadvantaged situation that they're in. And we need to understand that a lot of those people just need to have frank conversations with people who are willing to listen and share. And I would invite all of you to re-engage with those conversations with your relatives that you stopped talking to. Re-engage, follow again those friends from high school that you unfollowed on Facebook 5 years ago because you didn't want to hear their rantings anymore, and re-engage, because right now it's such an easy conversation to have. It's so black and white, and a lot of people are really single issue voters, And if you can break through to them, you can make a convert. I know a bunch of people are like, I'm not going to vote Democrat because, the Democrats, they were for vaccine mandates, and I'm just not cool with that. But when you hold that up in comparison to when you make the contrast between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and clearly show the people that you're in conversation with that it is really a question of good versus evil, that it's a question of preserving our democracy or descending into autocracy, it becomes so much easier to persuade people. I mean, I think that in a sense, Mark Hamill, to evoke you again, it's kind of like somebody saying, I don't know, man, I think I'm just like Team Darth Vader because Luke Skywalker didn't have a cool mask. It's good versus evil, and it's an easy conversation to have. So let's start having those conversations again. That's my invitation to everyone. I know it's the most powerful tool that we have in our arsenal. And one more last invitation here. Probably most of you who are on this call have already donated, but really reflect. Can you afford to donate any more? Because it will be the best investment that you can possibly make. An investment in the Harris presidency is the best investment you could possibly make, and the return on those dollars will be innumerable. Thank you all. It's such an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. It was really, really good to have you on. And thank you for the impassioned plea at the end. We are at a little over $3.5 million raised. If 40,000 folks on this call donated $20, I think that math works, probably I think $25, we can get ourselves to 4.5 million. So help us get there. Please don't check my math. We're just going with dude math right now. Our next guest is a former United States Senator, Doug Jones. He, as a U.S. attorney, he took on the Klan and he won. And in 2022, President Biden tapped Senator Jones to help shepherd Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's historic nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court through the Senate. Senator, we're so excited to hear from you.
Thanks, Ross. I appreciate it. Now, I want to, before I get to what I was going to say originally, I think here's the breaking news that I know it's late and y'all may have missed this, but this is breaking news and it's worth that $20 for all of you. The breaking news is Luke Skywalker is technologically impaired, challenged. That is New York Post kind of shit, guys. And that is worth a lot of money. Okay. So donate right now so that the guy who saved the galaxy can get some technology lessons. All right. So look, I know it's late. And I appreciate everybody that's on the call and that's been on the call. I really appreciate it. The lineup of speakers has truly been remarkable. I'm not going to spend any time talking about my friend Kamala Harris, who I had the honor of serving with, who was a big buddy. We used to cut up. She's just an incredible person. You're here tonight because you know Kamala. I'm not going to talk about how weird J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are and how they are a threat to democracy. You are here because you know that. And you've heard incredible speakers outlining time and time again all of the things. That's why we are all here. I want to go back to something said earlier by Josh Gad and Mayor and Governor Walz, and that's about hope. In the last week, folks, in the last week, the enthusiasm that we have seen from one end of this country to the other is absolutely a manifestation of hope. It is truly, people are grasping on to hope. And I got to tell you, that's something I can tell you I know a little bit about, because I bet you, I'd be willing to almost guarantee that 80–90% of the people on this call, if you're interested in politics, you can remember where you were on December the 12th of 2017, when the people of Alabama, after a year of Donald Trump, sent a guy to the United States Senate who was pro-choice, who was pro-civil rights, who had stood up to the Klan to put 2 Klansmen in jail for the murder of 4 little girls in a church in 1963. It gave everybody, that was not me per se. That was people coming together to reject extremism, to come together to reject a flawed candidate who also had his problems with women. It was coming together in unity. It was coming together. And it was that hope. And I'm telling you, we still feel that. Everywhere I go, we have people talking about where they were and the hope that it gave them. There's a whole group of folks. If you're under the age of 30, the odds are you may have gotten involved in politics because of that one single election. That is what's at stake here. That's what we're seeing in this. Because let's just be candid about this. We all thought that with the election of my friend Joe Biden, I've known Joe Biden for 46 years. He's one of the most amazing individuals I've ever had the honor of knowing. And he has been such an amazing president, the kind of president I always knew he would be from the first time I met him in law school in 1979. I always knew he would be a great president. What we have seen recently, though, when he was elected, when he and Kamala were elected, and people were excited, you then had January 6th, and all of a sudden all of that euphoria was a little bit shattered. We've never seen that kind of shit before. It was unbelievable what we were watching. And then for 48 hours, we saw hope again, because we saw one Republican after another stand on the floor of the United States Senate, on the floor of the House of Representatives, and denounce Donald Trump, causing January 6th, causing the havoc that was created at that Capitol, causing the deaths. But it lasted about 48 hours. And then all of a sudden, where we lost some of that hope, where it began to slide, is as great as this administration has been, we saw Donald Trump getting indicted, but gaining popularity, getting accused of all sorts of things and getting judgments in the hundreds of millions of dollars for a sexual assault or fraud, but gaining strength. And that from folks like us who believe in democracy, who believe in freedom, who believe in the rights of individuals, equal rights of individuals. That can be pretty dejecting, no matter how you feel about your candidate and how you feel about what they're doing. That can be pretty dejecting to see the splits in this country and the other side being so dominated by a guy who wants to be a dictator on day one. And so now, all of a sudden, with one of the most selfless acts of courage, political courage, that we have seen surely in my lifetime, and I'm probably older than most of you on here, but certainly in my lifetime, probably in generations, one of the most selfless acts of courage, we've seen Joe Biden step aside. And all of a sudden, the excitement was there. People all of a sudden saw Kamala Harris in a different light. They saw her as the leader that we know she is. They saw her as a leader for the future. They saw her as the hope for the future. That's what this is about. All of this is about the hope for the future, saving democracy. We all know it's on the ballot this November. And Kamala and whoever she picks as her running mate can save that hope, just like in 2017. The hope pushed us on the right side of history. That's where we can be once again this year. But it's going to take, as Governor Walz said, not just the hope, not just the enthusiasm, but executing a plan. You got to channel that hope into action. Your money and the $3.5 million we've raised tonight is just phenomenal, but there's more to do. There's got to be boots on the ground. We've got to get people engaged. You know, I had to tell you, this Zoom call has been pretty amazing. 160 some odd thousand people for white dudes. That's incredible. And it's been a series of these calls. And you remember in my election, the Black women who are the base of the Democratic Party were credited with getting me over the top. I won just by 20,000 votes or so out of 1.2 million. And it was this incredible surge of support from the Black women. Well, let me tell you something, guys. They're back and they are ready to roll, but they need help and they need us. They need everybody to pitch in financially and with your time. and to volunteer. Go to thewhitedudes.com, hit that button, and let's make sure that we can get more money than we've got already. And I want to say that this final thing, because I know it's late and I'm trying to stay within my time, even though very few people on the call have. That's okay. I was a senator. I'm used to that kind of crap. So today I read, I don't know if y'all read the historian Heather Cox Richardson, but if you don't, you should get her newsletter. She's really amazing. And she said something today that was, I think, just incredible, because she talked about over history of how we have in America would get kind of complacent with democracy, and things would happen and we would start to slide, and things were happening and people were gaining control, but yet people would rise up and they would protect democracy and strengthen it even more. And she sees that in the moment that we are in now, particularly as it has evolved over the last week, because democracy is always a work in progress. That idea that Joe Biden talks about is always a work in progress, and we can never let up. Just like civil rights is a work in progress, democracy is a work in progress. And Heather talked about the fact that people all week have been talking about how Joe Biden has passed the torch to a new generation. And clearly he has. But she made the point, and I think it's a good one that we've on this call all need to remember. He didn't just pass the torch to a new generation. He passed it to all of us. It is all our responsibility. We just can't wait for younger folks. We can't wait for another generation. It is our responsibility, just like it is anybody else's, of all races and religions, of all ages, of all sexes. It doesn't matter your sexual identity. It doesn't matter. It is up to us. And we've got to do everything it takes. It takes money. It takes time. More importantly, folks, it takes heart. It takes hope and inspiration. So as we wind down this late call and this telethon, do your part. Do your part, because your future depends on it. Your kids, your grandkids. America depends on it, and has been noted by a couple of speakers. There may be a few other countries around this world who also depends on what we do in America. And that's the beauty of this country. So thank you all. God bless you. This has been a great event. I am so honored to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Senator. And I just want to say it was an honor getting to hear from you, because of your service, but also because we're basically wearing the same shirt right now. So again, thank you so much for being on. Next up, we have the hilarious and awesome Adam Conover. Adam's an actor, writer, comedian. He hosts the show Adam Ruins Everything. In 2023, he was a key leader in the Hollywood writers' strike, helping organize his community for fair wages. He also helped educate millions of folks on what was at stake. All you, Adam.
Hi, everybody. I'll keep it quick because David Hogg's been waiting like 2.5 hours, and I'm pretty sure that guy has more important stuff to do than listen to all of us. It'll be pretty hard following former Senator Jones, but I'll do my best. I want to start, by we have a lot of Hollywood folks on this call, and I want to emphasize Hollywood is an industry like any other, and I think sometimes our problems help reflect the world. Something that I've heard a lot as a white man in Hollywood is that I didn't get such and such an opportunity because they couldn't hire a white man. That's something that you hear now quite often. And when I'm told that, I tell the person, first of all, who told me that to fuck off, because that's racist and it's a lie when they tell you that. It's designed to divide people. But more importantly, the reason I tell them to fuck off is because I know that everybody else who is maybe being considered for that opportunity is the sort of person who just a little while ago would have not been considered for that opportunity because they were not a white man, except no one would have ever told them that to their face, right? Or they wouldn't even had a chance to go into the room and audition, or maybe they wouldn't even made it to Los Angeles, right? When people tell you that, they are expressing the fact that there's been a change in this country where, for once in the entire history of this country, white men don't get every single opportunity. And that's something that I'm proud of. I'm proud to be part of our industry and our country at a time when that's the case. And you know why that is? It's because I have something called solidarity, because I care about everybody else and everybody else's problems, and I stand up for their issues as much as my own. And that is why I'm so grateful to be a part of this call, because it is so rare that white men are ever even identify ourselves, even call ourselves white men, even think of ourselves as white men. That means we don't have the opportunity to think of ourselves as being part of a group that can stand in solidarity with everybody else, with Black women, with LGBT Americans, with every other group other than white men. Of course, there are LGBT white men. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm so happy to be a part of this. Solidarity is also really important to me, because that's how we won the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA strikes last year, was we stood shoulder to shoulder with each other and fought for our own issues and each other's issues. And that's what this election is all about as well. Because the reason I care so much about this election is because it is very important to the issues that I care about most. We only won that strike. Yes, we won it because of our combined strength, but we also won it because the administration was behind us, because they gave us support from the jump. And more importantly, they put people in positions of power behind the scenes that made it possible for working people to win the kind of victories that we did. Because of this administration, because we have a Democratic administration, we have a pro-labor National Labor Relations Board, so that when, the companies tried to fuck us and, take away our tree cover or, reduce our ability to go on strike, we could go to the government and say, we're going to prosecute them, and we knew we would have a friendly ear. And because there are friendly people, there are antitrust advocates at the FTC and at the Attorney General's office that are fighting against the gigantic monopolies that are destroying our industry. If you look at like what David Zaslav said a little while ago, oh, the big businesses just need to be able to do what they do and consolidate and buy each other. That destroys jobs, that destroys the industry. And right now we have people in power who are fighting against that, and we will not if we don't make the right decision come November. Now, something very important is that, and another reason I'm a really big fan of this event is there's been some reporting recently that some very wealthy business interests would really love the upcoming Harris administration to change some of those pro-labor policies, some of those anti-monopoly policies, and bring in some bigger business policies. And they're trying to make some big donations to try to make that happen. What is so cool about this event is that this is a small dollar donor event. And by raising a lot of money in this event, we can show that the voices of average white dudes matter more than the rich CEO white dudes up at the top who are trying to, who are just trying to keep everything for themselves, right? And so that is why I really ask you to smash that donate button as much as anybody else. But my most important call to action for you is that we are told so often in our political culture, and there's a risk of it happening in this event as well, that all that matters from us politically is our vote or our donation. All you can do to help with politics, you can vote and you can, hit the donate button. Hitting the donate button is very important. Voting is very important. Those are both mandatory. But those take away your agency. You are not purely a transaction to be given to someone else's political party. You are a part of democracy itself. I really love that Senator Jones made this point. Democracy is us. That is what I learned when I was part of the strike, is that we made it happen together through beating feet, through walking back and forth on the pavement with signs. And so if you really want to have an effect this election, don't just donate, don't just vote, get the fuck out there and knock on some goddamn doors, especially if you live in Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, any of those places, or an adjoining state. Get out there and actually do some work. That is, and not just for the presidential election, for your local races, go to your city council meetings. Participating in democracy is the most important thing you can possibly do. Of course, after you smash that donate button, and please do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adam. We really, really appreciate it. I'd make a joke about your remarks, but I'm scared you'll debunk me. I also can't believe I just read that one. Y'all, there's still time to get your dude hats, but definitely not the pointy ones. Give your dude cash, sign up your dude friends. You can buy a hat on hit the button on the website to go buy one. I think we've sold over 5,700 so far. Keep donating, please. In the last little bit, we've raised about $200,000. We want to get to at least 400 before we get off the call tonight. And now we're going to hear from our next guest, Tony-nominated actor Rory O'Malley. He is best known for his role as Elder McKinley in the original Broadway cast of Book of Mormon. Rory, thanks for being with us. And also, I just want to say you did a lot of organizing for this call, and I just want to say thank you for being an organizer.
Thank you so much for having me. What's up, my white dudes? Ross, it was my honor to do anything for this call. I want to thank you and everyone who's been a part of it, and all of you who are on the call and who have donated that crazy amount of money. I'm in shock that this has happened. I'm here because I'm a dude. I'm clearly very white. I'm representing the pasty white contingency of the delegation. And I'm voting for Vice President Harris because she is the candidate that stands for justice, for freedom, and the future. She's the embodiment of the backbone of the progressive movement. She's a woman. More specifically, she's a Black woman. And Black women have been showing up to elect progressive white dudes for generations. And it's time we show up for them. So I'm challenging everyone listening to this call. Yes, donate, but please, please, over the next 99 days, volunteer. You volunteering as a white dude over the next 99 days will be so, so powerful. Make sure that these women who have been the backbone of volunteering for progressive causes see your face on phone bank Zooms. They see your face knocking on doors, standing next to them, having conversations about Vice President Harris. They need support. It breaks my heart to hear them say that they are scared that the country will not elect a Black woman, because they are saying that because they think we won't elect a Black woman. We need to stand with them. They are always going to be the backbone of the progressive movement. We're not going to change that. But what we can do right now is step up in every way. And honestly, the thing that we can do best right now is donating tonight under the banner of white dudes, because tomorrow there's going to be a headline and it's going to say how much money the white dudes raised for this campaign. And that is the first hint that those women are going to see that we have their back and we are not going back. Please do everything you can over the next 99 days, starting tonight. Donate, volunteer. And I just have a little tip for everybody. If you have that family member, a lot of us white dudes do, who are having trouble saying our candidate's name and might in the future have trouble saying their name, I have a tutorial. It's really easy. You have to say it very slowly. Her name is pronounced Madam President. Thank you very much. Donate, volunteer.
Fuck yes. That was awesome. Thank you, Rory. I just literally got a message as I was coming off mute. We have had over 180,000 people on the Zoom tonight. So thank you so much to everybody for making this a success. Thank you so much for your generosity. And also just thank you for digging deep and smashing that Act Blue link. We want to make the last part of this call the biggest of the night. Don't forget to grab the most essential man accessory of the season, the White Dudes for Harris dude hat. You can do it at whitemenforharris.com. Our next guest is Tim Daly. He's an actor and the president of the Creative Coalition, where he works to get other artists, producers, writers, and others to be effective advocates for change. And he was the voice of Superman in the animated series. So he's pretty perfect to speak to a bunch of dudes trying to be super. Wow. All right. Up next, Tim Daly.
Hi, white dudes and everybody else on this call and everybody out there who's watching. Thank you so much for being here. Without further ado, smash. Just get on that button and smash. A couple of things I want to say. One is that the reason that I am so excited about Kamala Harris is that she is intelligent, she has grit, she's funny, she's experienced, she's dedicated to making a system that works for everyone. She's got tenacity, and she happens to be a woman, which is in some ways the least important part, because all those other qualities make her more qualified than pretty much any candidate for president we've ever had. But it is time to have a woman, because that sensibility is something we've never experienced, and the experience of the white dudes has not always gone so well for us in that office. I played the first gentleman of the United States on TV, and so I think that Doug and Kamala will probably be calling me for a little advice. I'm going to give them a few pro tips when they call. But what I really want to talk about is patriotism, because I get really offended when people say that Democrats or progressives are not patriots. My father, his brother, his sister, his two sisters all served in World War II. My Aunt Mary Ellen was at one time the highest ranking woman in the military. My grandmother Dorothy worked for the CIA. My Uncle Dave was an FBI agent, a lifer. So, and these were progressive Democrats. So for people to say that Democrats are not patriots really goes up my ass a mile. And I think that it's time that we start educating the people that call us un-American, that we are not un-American. We are patriots. We believe in liberty. We believe in freedom. And I think we should also take back the flag, because I admit with shame that sometimes when I see people waving flags or drawing on flags, I think, oh, maybe they're MAGA people. Why do I do that? I want to wave the American flag. I want us all to wave the American flag as we donate money to this campaign, as we volunteer and walk out there and get people registered to vote and convince them that Kamala Harris is the best possible candidate for the highest office in our land. The other thing, and I'll close with this, is that as president of the Creative Coalition, I have helped and been instrumental in saving my organization, that is, has been instrumental in saving the National Endowment for the Arts numerous times. The first time we saved the National Endowment for the Arts, I thought, oh, that's it. Okay, we're done. Guess what? The next year, the budget comes out and someone wants to zero out the National Endowment for the Arts, and we have to fight it again. So I would say that as we donate our time to this campaign, and after Kamala wins the presidency, we cannot stop. We got to keep our foot on the gas, because you have to do the same thing over and over and over again to keep it from going backwards. So after the presidency is won, let's continue, all us white dudes and everyone else, to push for the things that we love, our liberties, our freedoms, and a progressive environment, because time only goes in one direction, and that's forward. And as much as the other party would like to go backwards, it ain't going to happen. But it's up to us to protect our movement in a positive and forward and progressive direction. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Tim. We really appreciate you being on here. And I do hope that you get a call about being a first gentleman on television. Our next speaker is David Hogg, who rose to national prominence as one of the most effective voices against gun violence after the tragic and shocking shootings at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High in South Florida. He has since distinguished himself as a fierce advocate for increasing civic participation among young people and is the founder of Leaders We Deserve. David, you're on, and also would love if you want to talk a little bit about Governor Walz as well.
You know, I will, of course. Hey all, I'm so happy to be on here. But tonight I really want to start out by talking about my own experience and how I got started in politics. And it's a story of learning what hope really means. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a student journalist because I didn't like politicians. I saw all of them as corrupt and sucking in different ways and as being just totally inept. And I wanted to do hit pieces on them effectively. But over the past several years, I've had my own criticisms and distrust challenged by our own successes. After Parkland happened, many people told us as students, I was 17 years old. Many of my classmates were, 14, 15 years old, that it was terrible what happened to us. The pollsters and pundits would say this over and over. It was terrible what happened to us in Parkland, but Florida will never change gun laws. Things will never get better, and you guys are dumb for even trying. And we said, okay, watch us. And it wasn't because we were necessarily hopeful. It's because it didn't matter, right? I feel like there's too fine of a line between hope and delusion. A lot of the time, hope can feel delusional. In our case, we didn't care what people said was possible. We were going to change the things that people considered possible to make them possible in the first place. So we showed up at our state legislature, and we actually raised the age to buy a gun to 21 in Florida. And we passed an extreme risk protection order or red flag law that can disarm people that are at risk themselves and others. And people say all the time that criminals don't obey gun laws, and that's obvious. They're criminals by definition. They don't obey laws. But it's important to note the shooter at my high school was a criminal, but he was not a criminal mastermind. He was a 19-year-old former student who was able to be legally armed with an AR-15 and was able to continue legally owning that weapon despite threatening to shoot at my high school multiple times and being reported to law enforcement, the FBI, and other agencies over and over again. And because of the passage of that law after Parkland, that red flag law that can disarm people that are at risk to themselves or others with the right to due process and counsel, I've seen it impact my own life. My mother got a threat from the NRA, from a supporter of the NRA, that said, F with the NRA, and you will be DOA. And we used the law that we passed after Parkland to disarm the man that threatened to kill my mother. These laws save lives, right? The shooter at my high school, he was a criminal. He wasn't a criminal mastermind. He didn't have deep connections to the black market or the cartel or anything like that. He was a deranged and racist 19-year-old that wanted to go out and kill students and teachers. And that same law that may have very well saved my mother's life has been used over 12,000 times since Parkland. If we did not have the smallest amount of hope that anything could change, if we listened to those critics that said that nothing would be possible, my mother may not be alive today. So we have to hope because lives are on the line. We have to believe that this change is possible. And I've seen the power of doing that. My family has been impacted in multiple ways by the decisions of the Harris administration, whether that's funding through the American Rescue Plan and other things like that helps to keep my mom employed, who's a teacher, through funds that were allocated through different programs passed under the Biden administration, whether that's through the PACT Act for my dad, who is technically a disabled veteran because of toxic exposure to jet fuel as a helicopter pilot in the Navy. My dad has had Parkinson's disease for the past 13 years, and now is more eligible for healthcare through the expanded VA benefits passed under the PACT Act that the Biden-Harris administration championed. And they passed the first federal gun law in 30 years that has been used over 800 times to disarm people to prevent people under 21 from buying guns like the AR-15 that were a known risk to themselves or others. And the challenge a lot of the time that comes with fighting for gun safety is that we're not going to know about the shooting that doesn't happen, but we do know that we are making progress on this. In the first quarter of this year, we saw the overall gun homicide rate compared to last year go down 20%. That's not anywhere near enough, but that is a hell of a lot more progress than we made under Trump, where oftentimes it was the opposite of that case. But we have to continue doing this work, whether it's through the creation of the Office of Gun Violence Prevention that was done at the White House or more. We have to continue getting out there and showing up and showing that gun violence prevention, gun reform is a winning issue. And Kamala Harris has been championing that every single time that she's talked about this, talking about banning assault weapons, talking about fighting for stronger gun laws. We have to get out there and show that this is a winning issue because we know it is. Just recently, last election cycle, March for Our Lives elected our first member to Congress, Congressman Maxwell Frost, who was our first national organizing director. I literally hired him from my freshman dorm room in college to work for March for Our Lives. And then he went and ran for Congress. I helped him raise a bunch of money to do that. And then he became the first Gen Z member of Congress and the first member of March for Our Lives. And less than a year after Maxwell was elected, I got to see him introducing the President of the United States for the creation of the Office of Gun Violence Prevention that we had been pushing for as an organization for over 3 years. That is the power of hope, of bringing in this new generation. That's why I'm doing the work with Leaders We Deserve now to help elect more young people across the country, to help create more people like Maxwell Frost. And that's why I'm so proud to be supporting Kamala Harris in her run. And I also would love to see Tim Walz there, just because he's a hilarious guy and an incredible speaker, as you all have seen. And because I think really more than anything, if you want the blue wall, that man is the blue wall. He was a teacher for 20 years. He is a veteran. And he's also, it may not look like it, he's 1 year older than Kamala Harris. And I attribute that age difference or that appearance to the fact that he supervised the school lunchroom for 20 years. And I don't know if any of you have ever been a teacher before or had parents that were teachers and worked with them. That is not an easy job, right? So he has the experience, and I think he's one of the most qualified people in the country to be vice president. And I would love to see him out there. And I'm so thankful to be on this call. Thank you to Ross for organizing it. Let's go and get Kamala Harris elected. And let's make sure that we donate. If you can, please donate at the link below to help support this. And thank you again, Ross, and everybody else on here for having me. And yeah.
Thank you so much, David. You win the award for best hat of the evening. I also have one. I just haven't been wearing it because I have the sweet man bun and I wanted to make sure everyone could see my extremely sweet man bun. Again, David, really appreciate it. Our next guest leads the Wisconsin Democratic Party, and as chair, Ben Wickler has transformed the Wisconsin party apparatus into one of the most effective organizing bodies in the entire country. He previously served as a senior advisor to Move On, and he has been a good friend for many years. Gentlemen, I welcome you, Ben Wickler.
Thank you so much, Ross. Thank you, everybody on this call. Thanks to all the previous speakers. Holy smokes. I believe I'm the last white dude, not the last dude on the call, but the last white dude on the call. And I'm proud as the last Wisconsinite speaker, proud to be a member of the Rainbow of Beige, as Bradley Whitford have it, who are here supporting Kamala Harris tonight. And I think tonight is living proof that white dudes are not a monolith, other than a ton of us having something we want to say, sometimes at length. Sometimes with great passion, sometimes with great vulnerability, but for everyone who's been here for 3 hours, because they know that Kamala Harris has to be our next president of the United States, I'm so grateful to everybody. I also want to ask everyone watching right now, let's give, wherever you might be, you can clap alone to Ross Morales-Ricchetto and the whole crew of mostly, but not all, bearded guys who put this together tonight. And I think we should all take a second to thank Joteka Edie, who launched the Win with Black Women call that kicked off a week ago and led to so many parts of the Democratic coalition coming together. Latino women, Black men, white women, Asian Americans, Native Americans, members of the LGBTQ plus community. So many people, hundreds of thousands of people have done calls like this over this last week and raised millions of dollars. And fellow white dudes on the call tonight, I'm so glad that even though we are maybe one of the last big communities to do a call like this, we did show up. We did show up, and we have raised tonight already millions of dollars. Now, I am not myself a billionaire, but I'm going to pledge myself to match the next $10 donation that happens on this call. So if someone donates $10 right now, I'm clicking it. All right, boom, done. Someone else out there, if you can match $25, I bet we could together raise more than $70 together in this moment, which would help put us past $3.5 million, which is unbelievable in the course of these 3 hours. I want to share with you that these donations, as small as they might feel when you click that button and then you decide on your tip level for Act Blue, these add up to something extraordinarily powerful. Because I'm joining you from the state where 4 of the last 6 presidential elections have come down to less than 1 percentage point. The other 2 were Barack Obama blowouts, by the way. I would love to see something like that this year. But 4 of them came down to less than 1 point. And in 2016, that meant Hillary Clinton losing by 22,748 votes. In 2020, Biden won by 20,682. Tonight, we've had more than double the number in the margin of victory from 2016 and 2020 put together, that number of people on this call. The difference between those 2 years, it wasn't just the winner and the number of votes, it was actually hundreds of thousands of votes that were the result of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of volunteer hours. And let's be real with ourselves, those hours happened on the other side of that fight too. There are millions of people who are going to be working to elect Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. People who saw what they did at the Republican convention, who have been reading about Project 2020, and boy, they really like the sound of that. And a lot of these people, if we knew them in our regular lives, many of us do know many of them in our regular lives, we can have great relationships with them. But we have to be realistic that there's going to be an enormous amount of work on the other side, and there's going to be a vast amount of money on the other side. And there's going to be an entire campaign apparatus dedicated to dividing us, to dividing the coalition, all the different folks that have been on all these different Zooms, to getting us to fear and distrust each other, to getting us to think that if someone on one of the other Zooms got something, that means that we lost something. Their playbook is to make us think that someone else has to lose in order for any of us to win, and to try to get people to push other people down and push them away. And we know there's only one way to defeat it. It is for us to come together. And everyone who's watching this Zoom right now, everyone who's a part of tonight's call or any of these calls, all of us have this extraordinary gift, which is the power to do something to fight against that division, to fight for something better, to fight for a country that benefits all of us, even if we're just doing this for ourselves, and not even taking solidarity into account. We have so much to gain. And the kind of country we get to live in, if we do this successfully, the kind of country that lifts all of us up, where all of us are more free, that is something profound and priceless. And we have 99 days to win that kind of future. It's been a long, long road to this moment. And everyone has their own family histories and their own experiences, their own lives growing up in politics, and maybe they hate politics for most of their lives. Everyone brings their whole selves to the moment that we're in. But for these next 99 days, let's zero in on the things that we can do to change that outcome, to ensure that this is a victory for Vice President Harris and a defeat for J.D. Vance and for Donald Trump and for Project 2025 and all the people trying to rip this country to shreds. We have the chance to do this. And in this moment, our dollars matter. Our donations actually make a difference in states like Wisconsin, the handful of states that tip the entire country because of this ridiculous electoral college institution that dates back to compromises over slavery. We can actually tip the outcome in the electoral college by making these donations. I am making budget decisions with my team every day. We're trying to figure out how many organizers we can hire to help the thousands of volunteers who are raising their hands every week to give them things to do that will help win this election. We're figuring out how many yard signs to print and distribute and barn signs to send out all across our state, how many clipboards to buy and hand warmers when it gets cold, because we'll be knocking through snow as we get to November in Wisconsin. And you'll see the same thing in Minnesota and a bunch of states around here. We have to make these decisions based on scarce resources. And when you donate, it makes those resources a little bit less scarce. It makes it more possible to say yes to doing things that we know will tip the balance in this election and unlock a future that is bright, that embraces all of us and allows all of us to grow and thrive, and prevents a future where we shrink and where we fear each other and where we have to retreat and recoil and resist instead of saying yes to the world. We have an opportunity right now to make those donations, to make that thermometer turn a beautiful red. And I say that as a person whose Democratic Party is represented by blue. We have the opportunity to fill the thermometer right now. And I want to ask you, if you've donated once, twice, go for a third time. This is it. And then I want you to find another button on your screen that says volunteer, because your volunteering makes a massive difference. There's a ton of research about how to win elections. There's a ton of political scientists and social scientists who've been running randomized controlled trials. And what they find is that surround sound makes the biggest difference. Hearing from lots of different people, hearing from people that are like yourself. And white dudes, there's a lot of white dudes that need to hear from you about how important it is to vote for Kamala Harris and against Trump and Vance in this election. Your power to influence your peer group, your group chat, people that you know, to make the case to people based on things that they already care about. You know the people that you know best. You know the thing that moves them. You know the thing that they're concerned about, afraid of, excited about. Connect with them at the level of your shared values and make sure that they cast that ballot. And then click that button, volunteer, help this campaign win in the swing states that tip the entire election. Let's win this presidential race. Let's win the Senate fight to get the majority. Let's flip the US House. Let's flip state legislatures. Let's make this a historic year, a landslide year, a victory for freedom and for democracy and for building a country that lifts everyone up. That is within all of our collective power. Us on this Zoom and all the other Zooms, and even people not on Zooms. All of us together, we have this gift, this precious moment, these 99 days. Let's use it. Let's win. Thanks so much, Ross. Back to you.
Ben, you are always super inspiring. Always. And you know, something that everybody has been saying on this call, or almost everyone, is that we have 99 days to the election. one thing that you never get back in an election is time. You can always raise more money. You can go out and recruit volunteers. You cannot go out and get more time. And so, as Ben said, every moment counts right now. It's critical. I'm going to make the second to last ask of the evening. You all have been super generous. I'm going to keep it easy on you and make it fast. We'd love if you bought one of the hats. Please get, and like it all go, like it's going to the Harris campaign. So whitedudesforharris.com, click the hat button. This has just been a real honor, getting to engage with really awesome people here. I'm not going to congratulate everyone on this call. It should be an expectation that we're all doing this work, but I'm really, really, really grateful that all of you are here tonight. Our final speaker of the evening is Erin. She is the executive director of Showing Up for Racial Justice, organizing majority white communities to undermine the power of the right and bring millions of white people into a multiracial movement. Erin, I'm going to kick it off to you.
Hello, my white dudes. I'm Erin, as Ross just said, and I'm the director of Showing Up for Racial Justice, and I am so excited to be with you all tonight. I grew up and I still live in the heart of the Rust Belt in Buffalo, New York, and I'm from a union family, we were CWA, and I grew up knowing that we had the things we needed in my family because my dad was in the union. Shortly after I was born, the Bills lost the Super Bowl 4 times in a row. And the steel mills closed, Bethlehem Steel closed down, and I saw my city really decimated because of it. And we've been going through some shit here for decades, right? And I've seen firsthand the ways in which MAGA forces have been pulling off my neighbors and family members year after year after year. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and that was the era of relentless attacks on organized labor and the birth of the Southern strategy, right? Which was a plan by the Republicans to stoke white as a way to win elections and screw all of us. So I saw this vicious combination, and it's what has led us to this moment, right? Where we've got a couple of Wall Street stooges dressed up as your neighbor saying that they're your savior and Black or brown people are to blame, right? I've seen dudes in my own family sold a sack of lies that racism and white supremacy was going to solve the very real pain and suffering in their lives. And so, yes, I'm here, organizing to help elect Kamala Harris. Yes, to show up for other people, to show up for Black, brown, Indigenous people, to show up for myself as a woman, people who are most under attack. But I'm also here fighting for the white guys in my life and in my family who I know will be better off when Trump and Trumpism is defeated, right? Because Trump and Vance, they know that they need white men silent, they need white men separated, and they need white men feeling antagonistic to multiracial movements in order for them to win. Are you with me? So this is the work of Surge, right? We undermine the power of the right and we bring white communities into multiracial fights for racial, economic, and gender justice and to win elections, which is what we've got to do in these next 99 days. And we do this because we know if the only people talking to white guys are Trump and Vance, of course we're going to lose, right? And so we have to organize in majority white communities, rural communities, working class communities, where the GOP and the right, quite frankly, have kicked our asses, right? But it's easy to get your ass kicked when no one else shows up to the fight. So we're fighting in communities that we know we have to contend with, right? And so like many of you on this call tonight, Surge is showing up, and where we know we fight, we win. We have a really powerful track record moving white voters. We're the largest racial justice organization in US history, organizing in white communities. So we, of course, work to move progressive white people off the sidelines to commit to vote and to taking action. And we go into some of the toughest, reddest turfs and deliver progressive victories. We were the largest outside independent organization campaigning for Andy Beshear, who just won to win his reelection in Kentucky. We won in Mitch McConnell's territory, one of the poorest, whitest, most rural towns, states in the country, right? So we're a home for white people fighting racism, from the city block to the suburban cul-de-sacs to the country hollers. We know in this presidential election, as so many people tonight have said, that Trump and Vance are already being ruthless in their use of racism and misogyny to try to win over white people and white men in particular. And so we have a big plan to contribute to winning and electing Kamala Harris this fall, and we need you to help us execute it. So many people tonight have talked about the need to donate. And if you haven't done that yet, hit that donate button. We want to get it as high as we can tonight, so hit that donate button again. And so many people have talked about how important it is to do direct voter contact and for white dudes to be talking to other white dudes. So we have a big plan. We're organizing 12 million white voters in 6 key battleground states to elect Kamala Harris. Half of those people are white dudes. We need your help talking to them. As Maurice said at the very top of this call, white men silently disagreeing with the racism and misogyny you're going to hear is not enough. We need people to donate, and we need people to get on doors and talk directly to other white men. So if you haven't yet given, you all love saying that, smash the donate button. Only the white guys are saying smash the donate button. I love it. Smash the donate button one more time. And then I want you to sign up to canvass with us. This election is going to be tough, but as I said at the top, I'm a Bills fan, so I like a challenge, and I have an endless amount of hope. We can totally do this. So after you've given to the campaign, I want you to sign up to contact voters with us. We are contacting white men in Georgia this Wednesday at 6 o'clock Eastern time. And if you go, it's going to be white men calling other white men in a swing state in Georgia. And you can sign up to participate at whitepeopleforharris.org. Let's get Kamala Harris elected as our president. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much, Aaron. And one thing I will say to you, I'm from the great state of Texas. I'm actually from Houston, and you guys beat us in the playoffs one year to go to the Super Bowl. And I remember listening to that game on the radio with my parents, and I will never forget blowing a 21-point lead. So thank you for the reminder of that. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This has been a wild ride the last few days. We had over 150,000 people sign up to be on this call in RSVP. We had over 190,000 people who tuned in tonight. I know this is just the beginning. If we work hard for these next 99 days, if we talk to our friends, if we talk to our family, if we're willing to have some uncomfortable conversations, if we dig deep to truly do everything like we can, I know that we can change this country forever. I know that we will be able to look back on this and feel proud that we did our part. And that starts now. The first thing we need to do is continue to raise as much money as possible for the Harris campaign. I've run campaigns in the past. They're expensive. You get asked for money because billions of dollars are going to get spent trying to smear Vice President Harris and her record and the Democrats' accomplishments. So right now, we keep giving till it hurts. We have officially raised, with our matches and hat sales, $4 million. You know what that means? We got to raise another $4 million. We can absolutely do it. I'm going to do my part by giving $1,000, which is probably the biggest gift that my wife and I have ever given to a candidate at one time. I don't know that she knows that we're doing this. Whatever you can do, let's do it. Let's make this election cycle something that we can be proud of. Again, thank you so much to everybody who got on tonight. Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you to all of the people who tweeted about this on social media. And my one last ask is, if you're not able to give any more money, send an email with the donation link to 5 or 10 of your friends and ask them to give $10 or $20. That's what we need to do here. Hit that volunteer link. If you can't do that, we just need to get out there and get this shit done right now. Thank you so much, everybody. This was such an awesome evening, and especially thank you to the people who've stuck around with us for all 3 hours and 20 minutes of this. With that, we'll be signing off. Thank you again.